Island Public Schools Board of Education meeting. This is the August 12th, 2022 meeting. Notice of this meeting has been advertised in the Grand Island Independent, which is the district's designated method of giving notice of these meetings. We want those in attendance to know that copies of the Open Meetings Act are available at the entrance to the boardroom. If anyone in attendance is interested in addressing our board, you are welcome to do so. We simply request that you complete the appropriate form and turn it in to us so that you may be recognized during the request to address the board part of our meeting. If you have not already completed the form, please see the staff person outside the entrance to this room. Public comment is welcome. We do ask that no signs be brought into the boardroom. Mrs. Dibbert, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Albers?
Present.
Mr. Barsonis?
Present.
Mrs. Hinkle? Mr. Hawley?
Here.
Mrs. Durkins? Mr. Bros? Dr. Bros, sorry. Dr. Bros, sorry. Mrs. Wolf? Miss Wolf, sorry. Mr. Brown?
Present.
Mr. Helinski?
Present.
And Mrs. Durkins did give prior consent of being absent.
Thank you. Now, the mission statement. Dr. Bros, will you please read the mission statement?
Sure. Every student, every day a success. In educating students, we teach hearts as well as mind. Student commitments. Within the school district of Grand Island, every student has access to high-quality, culturally responsive, and engaging learning environments. Every student will develop literacy skills across disciplines. Every student is socially and emotionally equipped to thrive in school and in life. Every student will graduate as a college, career, and/or community-ready citizen.
Thank you, Dr. Bros. Number 4, the consent agenda. The first item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is to be approved as follows. 4.1, minutes from the previous month's meeting. 4.2, acceptance of agendas from standing committees. 4.3, educator professional growth and evaluation system renewal of observation. 4.4, claims as submitted. 4.5, staff adjustments as submitted. 4.6, treasurer's report as submitted. 4.7, approval of agenda as submitted. This is the consent agenda as published. Would anyone like to remove an item or add any items to the consent agenda?
I would like to make a motion to move agenda item 19 to agenda item 9.9 for information.
Mr. Barsonis and Mrs. Hinkle, any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. Then you go right into the next one. Okay.
And I'll make a recommendation to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Mr. Barsonis and Mrs. Hinkle. 5 is special recognition. 5.1, is Mr. Gilbertson here? There he is. Board, you're going to meet our new board rep, Mr. Cloutier.
Yes.
I'm not talking to your dad. Would you like to come up with Mr. Gilbertson?
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Grover, good to see the board tonight, and it's my pleasure to introduce our new student board rep to you for a number of reasons. I just look forward to this time of the year, and when I have that opportunity to introduce this new member of your board, I know school is right around the corner. School's going to start, so we are so excited about that. Again, what a pleasure to introduce this fine young man, Zach Cloutier, as our new 2022-2023 student representative to the Board of Education. Here are a few facts that I know about Zach. I'm first going to start out, Zach, just kind of casually introducing you with what I know about you so far, and that is Zach's a great listener. We've already met a couple times, once in the spring and then in the summer, and he's just so impressive in his communication skills. particularly with his listening. And so I honor that. Nice job, Zach. Second, he's very driven. And that's kind of a nice segue into his accomplishments. This is what I know about him. He shared his current class schedule with me. Listen to this lineup. AP Calculus, AP Chemistry, AP Physics, AP Computer Science, AP English, Literature, and Composition. And then he just rounds it off with AP Statistics and Probability. Let's give him a round of applause for that. As noted, with this class schedule, he has received recognition as an honor roll award winner, as well as academic letter winner. He's involved in extracurricular activities. His main activity would be football. He's attained 2 varsity letter awards. He's also a member of National Honor Society. And then he's been very busy out in the local community refereeing. I didn't know this, but you're a referee for youth soccer, basketball, baseball, etc. He's also been out there volunteering for several youth sports camps. He's participated in fundraisers, extracurricular activities, as well as multiple community service projects through football, the football organization. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Zach to take the mic here. Is that all right, Zach?
Yeah.
Okay, he's gonna say a few words. So Zach Cloutier, very good. Come on. All right.
It's very good to meet you all. My name is Zach Cloutier. I don't know if there's much more as far as my resume goes to list, but I'm very excited to be working with all of you. Yeah, this is a real passion of mine, and it was a goal a while back, even before the interview process was going on. And yeah, just really excited to get to know everybody, and
I have to say, when Zach interviewed, he just knocked our socks off. It was such a good interview. He asked, at the end you always say, do you have any questions? And usually people are like, I just can't get out of here fast enough. And but Zach stayed, and he had like 4 questions. He'd written them down, and we talked at length about some of his he didn't have any concerns, but it was really more of a curiosity. And it was awesome. And then we met again this summer, and he asked great questions, and Mr. Gilbertson's right. He listens, and he's just wise beyond his years. So I don't mean to set you up for like anxiety, but we're excited you're going to be on the board, Zach. You're going to do a great job, and I'm super excited to see what your input is as presentations are done. So welcome. And are your parents here?
yeah.
Would you introduce them, please?
Paul and Carla Cloutier, you might know Mr. Cloutier.
Yes. Yes, well, you've raised a fine young man there. You must be very proud. Congratulations. So, well, great job, Zach. So you've got the next month off. Gear up. We'll see you in September. Okay. Well, actually, we'll see you in the AP Awards. Okay.
Can we do a quick photo? Awesome. I'm going to be that guy. Yeah, if folks could come up, and Dr. Grover, any other board members that want, but for sure Mrs. Albers, Dr. Grover, get a quick photo. Commemorate the occasion, right? Yeah, I'll take one quick one from my phone so I can tweet it, but then you do your thing. Sure. Is that okay?
Yep. We can go up here. Get a picture just as well.
Okay, yeah, awesome. We'll do family first, and then we'll get the whole gang. Awesome.
You can look at it.
All right, so you look at me first. This one's for social media, and then Kelly's gonna take the pro photos here. 1, 2, 3. All right.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Beautiful. All right. Awesome. Here we go. This is so cool. I'm so glad we're doing this. Thank you so much. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
1, 2, 3.
Awesome. Thank you. And congratulations. Thank you so much.
And for 5.2, AP recognition for high school level students from 21-22, AP testing. Dr. Dole.
Good evening, Board of Education. We are here to honor more students. So we're happy that Zach Cloutier was already honored. He'll be honored a second time. And we have a number of other students that are receiving honors for their performance on the AP exams. I'm going to go through a tiny amount of information, sort of some background about the AP exams and student performance before we honor our students. So first, and I apologize that it's a little small, but we wanted to give a historical picture of how many % of students score on the AP a 3 or greater, which is equivalent to college credit. So you notice in the last 3 years during the pandemic that number went from 52% of students to 39%. I want to say something. As we see a decrease, that a decrease is still an increase. Here's the reason. Every year we're testing more and more students in AP, and even this year, as Mr. Phillips has shared with the Board of Education Committee, we're raising the number of students that are going to be tested by AP to almost cover all students, as many as possible. So as we continue to test more and more students, we're going to continue working to refine that percentage of students that are in college credit. But I want to emphasize from the beginning that smaller numbers of AP students were tested, and that each year we've been increasing that. Next, and there's kind of a lot of information here, but I want to just highlight the huge plus, 311 AP exams, more than we've ever given in a year, and that was to 269 students. You notice in the row that is not purple that there was 229 or 40 fewer students took AP exams the previous year. So during a pandemic, we've increased by 40 students, and we're going to keep increasing. So that's great news, and we're here to honor students that are generally in that 4 and the 5 band, and or received extra distinctions and honors from AP. There's a huge number of AP exams in different areas. I'd highlight that the blockbuster exams in ELA composition or in macroeconomics, or look at world history, 81 AP exams given. A lot of those are going to be ones that a year from now, we're going to see even bigger numbers, closer representing the percentage of students taking those classes. And so that's going to be exciting a year from now. But just today, we're going to see the highly successful students in these areas. So I want to just give you some information about who we're honoring tonight. We're honoring that column of students there, students that either received a 4 or a couple of 4s on the AP exam, or that received a 5 or a couple of 5s or even a few 5s. AP scholars or scholars with honor or with distinction took 3 or more exams and received both a high average as well as that they took 3, and each one has a different definition. I'll go over them on a different slide. But we have 40 students that we're honoring, and approximately 18 to 20 of them that are here with us tonight. So as I start reading the names, those students can start coming in. So students that receive 4s on the test, I organize them in groups. The group of students that received 1 score of a 4, Eli Fawcett, Brandon Fox, Simon Jaworski, Angel Morales, Zoe Roundy, and I'll mention students that have an asterisk aren't going to come up yet because they have another honor that comes later, so they're going to come up in the second group. But Lisbeth Salgado, Jacob Shager, Haley Soschemeyer, Shawnee Erbauer, whose parents are here, Daniela Venegas, Alan Gonzalez, Charles Phillips, and Emma Smith. Those are students who had a score of 4 or more on the test. And the ones that don't have asterisks, please come up. You can should be about 8 students that come in.
Stand up there, and then we'll get your picture. I'm sorry. I'll come up here with you.
call their names again. Okay. All right. We're going to fill the room. All right. All right. We have a lot of students, so I allow the audience to just let them all come in. Just bring them in. All right. All right. All of our students in now, I'll give a chance to introduce the remaining students. So we have some students that have fives, and I'll read those students, and then after that, we have AP Scholars with honor, and Scholars with distinction. So students who scored a 5 or more, we had Sage McCollum, Lillian Miller, who's not here tonight, Elizabeth Price, Alexander Rosser, and Mason Mesmer. And something we do want to mention about Miss Lillian Miller, she scored a perfect 36. She was honored in Lincoln, and though she's not with us, we have something to give to our Board of Education to sign on her behalf, so we'll give that to her. Next, we have our AP Scholars, many of whom are on the stage. Bode Albers, Alejandro Almador, Bailey Brooks, Cameron Carlson, Jake Gosha, Daniel Gutierrez, Alexander Hornady, Ava Labrie, Hannah Madison, Alika Matzner, Sage McCollum, Angel Morales, Kenny Morales, Charles Phillips, our own Isabella Prado Gomez, who's handing the baton over tonight, Zoe Roundy, Jacob Shager, Timothy Truxell, Raim Van Winkle, and Jack Voss. Next, we have our AP Scholars with Honor, John Comer, Anne-Marie Martinez, Porter Dickinson, and Aubrey Pickup. And I would mention about Porter, he scored a 36 in the reading subject area in the ACT. So huge congrats to all these students and to Porter. Finally, Scholars, AP Scholars with distinction, the highest category, and this is a 5s or more. I want to go to my notes, but it's on 5 or more tests. And an average of, I think, 3.5 on all of those. So really setting yourselves up for success for college with the number of AP exams and the high performance on those. Zachary Cloutier, who we've already honored, Riley Deegan, Mason Mesmer, who I mentioned before, Lillian Miller, Bryce Cedars, and Emma Smith. So these are all of our AP Scholars, as well as our other AP Scholars, the ones who have 4s and 5s. But we just want to honor all of you tonight. You are amazing. And this is an accomplishment you're going to build on in future years to come. Possibly we want to get some photos with family.
Absolutely. Let's do photos. All right. Mrs. Albers and Dr. Grover, let's do that group do the whole group together with Mrs. Albers and Dr. Grover, and then we don't do family photos. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we're going to do 2 or 3 rows here. That's right. Awesome.
Actually, yeah, I can see it.
I know, this is gonna work. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Right, right here. 1, 2, 3. One more. Okay.
All right, parents, if you wanted to come up and take photos, feel free. Everybody stay. That's right. Everyone get their photos?
All right, super big congrats to y'all. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone.
And number 6, request to address the board. I don't think we have anyone. So we'll skip 7 and 8. 9, information items. 9.1, Grand Island Public Schools Foundation. The official introduction of Carrie Hooker Leap.
Right on time.
Yeah.
Really, we're right on time?
Yeah, yes.
Wow, okay, good.
Perfect time.
Perfect timing. Okay. Well, good evening. Ta-da! I'm pleased to be here tonight to introduce you to Carrie Hooker Leap. She is the new executive director of the Grand Island Public Schools Foundation. Carrie's a Grand Island girl. She went to West Lawn. She went to Walnut. She went to Grand Island Senior High. She's also a seasoned professional fundraiser, having worked for the Combined Health Agencies Drive, CHAD, for 18 years. She has absolutely hit the ground running, and she will take your foundation to new heights, I have no doubt. We are so excited that we have attracted such talented individual who has wonderful connections. So she's going to give you a little update on our new fundraising gala that's scheduled for the fall, and then we've got a bunch of other stuff for you tonight. So we have some guests with us too. So Carrie's going to give you an update, and then I'm going to come back on.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy. Well, good evening. We are hosting our inaugural gala, which is The Harvest. It's going to be September 22nd. That is a Thursday evening. Tickets are ready to be purchased. It's at gipsfoundation.org. The event, we will be honoring the late Marv Maurer, who was integral in creating our General Scholarship Fund. Proceeds from our gala will go to the general scholarships, also programs that allow us to give more money back to support classrooms and students. Our gala will have live and silent auction items. It will also have games of chance such as Plinko, heads and tails, and wine and whiskey pulls. Even a dessert dash, so wear good shoes. Just saying. Harvest website is available. You can browse all our auction items now. We would love to have you join us in person if you're able to, but if you're not able to, you can actually purchase online as well, and you can do that starting bid anytime you want. We look forward to it. We will also be sending out, Alicia will be sending out a special request to all the board members, and that should come tomorrow. Through email, so. Tracy?
All right. So we're here tonight to talk about some wonderful investment from the GIPS Foundation over the past year. But before we get started, we wanted to bring up Melody Pebley. I think you might know her. She is representing Third City Sertoma tonight, and she's going to present a grant to our district students. So Melody, come on up.
Hello again.
Hi.
I'm here again to present to you as, excuse me, as the outgoing Board of Directors of Third City Sertoma. I'm here again to present to you a check for $3,420 to Renee Engel. She'd come up to the special ed department. This is for reimbursement, basically, because we had to purchase them because the price was going to go up on August 15th. So we went ahead, before I left, we went ahead and bought them. But this is for reimbursement of 4 Phonak Roger touchscreen microphones to be used for our students who are deaf and hard of hearing. So once again, as some of you might know, Third City Sonoma has a very long-standing partnership with Grand Island Public Schools and providing funds to help provide equipment for our deaf and hard of hearing program. So it is my pleasure again to present you, Renee, with a check for money to assist with that. So,
You want to do a picture? Oh, okay. Okay, let's see here. I need the cord. Ah, I was like, where's the end of it? I'm sorry, I'm a little technology challenged here. Okay, so you might have heard about a recent $2.4 million investment into our scholarship program. And because these investments are legacies, I just wanted to share a little bit about this with you. So I'm going to play just a little video, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. All right. Bessie Frith was a force. She bled Grand Island purple because not only was she a product of our school system, graduating in 1955, but she also taught and was principal in our system for 38 years. She started school in 1942 and retired in 1997. That's a 55-year relationship. But it didn't end there. As she said, I don't think you ever retire from education. You continue to care. I gave my heart and soul to Grand Island Public Schools, and I want to do what I can to help students succeed. Bessie was always, I'm gonna cry. Bessie was always a friend to our students, but she became a great friend to the GIPS Foundation and to me personally over the years. She was an ardent supporter, outspoken, no filter, but absolutely in our corner. And so Bessie and her husband Chuck started giving scholarships in 2008, and we helped them give scholarships every year for 15 years. The funds from the estate will further endow their scholarships and will generate approximately $100,000 each year to award to qualifying students. Her dream is coming true. Bessie will get to invest in students who have obstacles, but also a fire in their belly for success forever. And we get to be part of that, and we are very grateful. We have a lot to celebrate at the GIPS Foundation, and we wanted to present the Board of Education with several checks tonight, but I just wanted to share the legacy of that gift because it truly, at the end of the day, is about relationships, and she was Grand Island. So, all right, we're going to give you several checks representing the direct philanthropic investment in our students over the last year. These checks represent foundation programs only. They don't take into account the managed organizations such as booster clubs. This is our fiscal year to date. Your GIPS Foundation has awarded $759,383.75 in grants, scholarships back to students. It represents 5 main categories: scholarships, legacy funds, classroom and success grants, dual credit investment, and pass-through grants. Carrie's going to read through the checks and the amounts, and I'm going to explain the purpose. So go ahead, start.
The 2021-22 legacy grants is for $182,578.40.
Okay, so legacy grants encompasses AU fund, our COVID-19 emergency fund, our endowed funds such as the Clark Reese, the Larry Maupin, the B. Southard. There's a whole group of funds, of grant-making funds that encompass this. In addition to the Early Childhood Fund, which we paid out to the O'Connor Learning Center for the playground, and the Masterpiece Campaign Fund, which was paid out for the renovation in the auditoriums with updated lighting. And also it encompasses the Student Kindness Fund. And so we spent about $16,000 in kindness grants. We spent almost $20,000 in emergency grants, $41,000 in endowed funds. The list goes on. So these are these funds that kind of wrap around our processes, that wrap around what you guys are doing. So what was that total? 182,578. Next.
Is the 2021-22 pass-through grants for $26,957.35.
So these are the grants that are just like what you saw here tonight with Sertoma. They come through your philanthropic partner. So we pass them through. Okay, next.
2022 classroom mini grants and success grants for $16,815.
And we funded 12 grants, 12 classroom grants this year, 6 student success grants out to schools, and those come from our unrestricted funds.
2022 dual credit grant is $21,500.
Okay, so that comes from the Career Pathways Institute endowment that we raised in 2013. And those are for dual credit courses for the students that take classes at that campus, which you have made this wonderful opportunity for our students to get dual credit. But this is part of that. It's part of that pie.
And the largest one yet. For the 2022 scholarships, $511,533.
Yes, 511, 533, 88 graduates, 153 scholarships this last year. So those are our grants, and we want to present them to you and give you the checks, but we'll do that picture real quick. But I just want to thank you so much. It's been my honor and my privilege to serve the students and staff of Grand Island Public Schools over the last 19 years. This board took a leap of faith and made the investment in your foundation so many years ago. And our students have benefited so much. So thank you. Can we take photos now?
Before we take photos, Tracy, it is just, I have known you, well, since the kids did Destination Imagination and we started that fund. That was like a child ago for you. Yeah, that was
2005 or
yeah,
something.
it was a long time ago. But you just always had a heart for this, Tracy. I mean, and you really, I was so clueless. I didn't know what, I just knew we needed this money to get these kids to, where'd we go, Bonnie? Tennessee, Knoxville. and you were just, that was my first kind of introduction to the foundation at Grand Island Public Schools. But it has just been my pleasure, our pleasure, to have you at this district, and you will be missed. I will say, I went to high school with Carrie. I've known her a long time, so I know that we are in good hands, but we will always see what you have done here. So congratulations, and we will miss you.
Thank you. And this is my very last thing. When I walk out the door tonight, I walk out the door.
Okay.
So,
So what kind of wine is that?
now can we take pictures with the children? Yeah, let's do Mel and Renee first. Absolutely. just want to hold them all?
Can we get the board?
You guys just, the whole
Is there
board?
enough for every, yeah, whole
The
board wanna come out,
There's
hold
like-
checks?
There's 5 of them, I think, so.
Who wants to hold money?
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. Get friendly, yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3, look at me. One more, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you bet.
9.2, GIPS Summer Programs 2022 update.
And you are in for a real treat. We just had extraordinary opportunities this summer. Jill Kimbrough was our coordinator. Oh, sorry, Butner. I knew her before she was married and before she had a baby. She just stepped in and had a baby during the whole process, and coordinated, communicated, websites, just phenomenal. She also helped the communications between our fine arts camp, which Mr. Beeman will come up and talk about that. Also, Dr. DeFrank in our activities, worked with coaches and Cindy Wells and just all kinds of activities. And then Kenny Morales as well. I think you were here when he was presented with a grant from the foundation to put together a camp at the high school. So I am going to let Jill take it away.
So yes, I was a little busy this year. Having a baby kind of changes things, but I was so grateful for the opportunity to lead the charge with this. Dr. Dexter and really all of the administration at Grand Island Public Schools really entrusted summer programming to me, which was a little nerve-wracking at first, but we got through it and we really learned a lot. One thing I really want you all to know is what fabulous and amazing leaders we have here at GIPS. And I'm not talking about our principals, although they're fabulous, and I'm not talking about all of our administration at the Neal Building, which are fabulous, and all of you too, but we have leaders without titles. And I don't think that they get recognized enough. These individuals have put in work beyond the normal school day. When we start planning for summer, typically in the past, it's been kind of starting for most of them in February-ish, which is crazy to think because that's when we have snow on the ground. But that's when a lot of our summer programs start to get off the ground. And that is planning those things on top of the regular daily duties of being a teacher, being a counselor, whatever it is. So we really, really have amazing leaders coming up in the district, and they are just really making us grow to be better. We have several people here that ran some of these programs, and so if they are here, I'm going to have them come up and talk about their own program because they know it best. We can ask questions and whatnot about the overall scheme of things because there will be some changes coming down the pipe just overarching to help make things run a little bit more smoothly, and I can answer those questions at the end. There were a lot of programs this summer. It was amazing, but there's a lot. So we're gonna see if we can't go through these a little quickly for you so we're not here till midnight. So we're gonna start with GISH, and I don't think I had, no, okay. Kenny, make sure you're ready. Okay. We had our summer programming at GISH. We had our credit recovery like we normally do. Also, we had our ELL and our migrant programs going on. So it's really just an opportunity for students to recover their credit in English, math, science, and American history. They had a total of 97 students complete credits. They had 22 earned credits in multiple classes. 12 students completed graduation requirements this summer, and then 7 participated in the commencement ceremony on July 2nd. A couple of pictures here of things that were going on during that time. The Title I Part C migrant education, we had the full day session in June, half day in July. This was the first year that they extended that opportunity, and I believe that's something that they would like to continue to do. 47 students participated in the summer school to complete those classes and move closer to their graduation goals. 12 classes completed worth a total of 410 credits that were earned. I do want to say a few of our students in this participated in our busing that we offered for the second time this year. That's something that we will talk more about at the end, but I did want you guys to know that we did have some students participating in the busing for our migrant and ELL programs. So we also had our EL newcomers participating in our 2 middle schools at Barr and Walnut. This year our numbers were a little bit lower, but we also had some different transitions with families moving between home schools. So we had students that started at Walnut, and over the summer they moved over to Barr, so that might have been part of that issue. Also, we had our refugees from Afghanistan, and there was just some language barriers there that we were working through. Those kids, though, man, they love school, so we are so happy to have them here with us. So 43 EL newcomers were at Grand Island Senior High, and then 8 started school in the U.S. in August of 2020, 5 after January of 21, and then 3 enrolled in June in 2021. I don't think I have any of my middle school people here. Okay. Summer Academy at the middle school changed a little bit this year, and we changed it because we had additional funding through ESSER funds. One thing that we have been seeing throughout was we were trying to figure out how to engage students. During the pandemic, we saw a huge drop in student engagement and student attendance in our middle schools, and we wanted to find ways to bring that engagement back up. So we got together, we talked to several people who had been involved in Summer Academy in previous years, and we decided that we would focus more on STEAM skills. We would still talk about and have our kids learn math and language arts, but we wanted to add that science component. When you break it down for Summer Academy, we only have kids for 16 days. And after you do your little intro day and after you do your exit day, you're down to 14 days of instruction. And it's only in the morning. So trying to get kids to learn vast amounts of standards really is asking the impossible. Our teachers will do it, but it's very, very difficult. What we really wanted to focus on this year was we knew that we may not be able to get growth in 14 days. We may not be able to get, we don't have a way of measuring to see if they're maintaining, but we do know that we can form relationships in 14 days. We know that we can engage students. We know that we can get them to love learning and love coming to school. And so those were the things that we focused on. So we changed it over to more of a STEAM approach. And really, we had a lot of success with that. We opened it up, since it was new, to all 3 middle schools and said, here's what our plan is, take it, run with it, make it your own. And they really did. So Walnut, they had 30 students attend regularly for Summer Academy. Their focus was using the STEAM-based project learning to maintain engagement. They did a dream bedroom floor plan, a menu development, and then those Who Am I books, the person from history, they did a whole presentation on that, and I believe some of those should be at the State Fair this year. So you can look for those. On the last day of Summer Academy, students invited their parents to view their projects, and then they had a picnic and like a carnival in the gym as well. Quote from Eduardo, "At first I said I didn't want to come, but then I wanted to come every day because it was so fun." And that is truly what we are trying to do with our summer academies to help get our middle school students involved. They also said team building was super important, and then the field trips on Fridays were a hit. We tried to provide those ample experiences, extra experiences for the kids. One thing I know that Walnut talked about, they experimented with having instruction Monday through Thursday and then a field trip Friday. It really seemed to be a lot. I mean, it is summer after all. A lot of our kids, even though it was a field trip, they struggled to get there that Friday. So we're just going to stick with the Monday through Thursday timeframe. I will say all 3 schools did field trips. I think the teachers had just as much fun as the kids on the field trips. BAR, they had 32 students enrolled. Again, everyone's focusing on STEAM. Their project-based learning allowed students to explore and expand independently with teacher support and guidance, and their extended learning activities and field trips to foster a love of learning. They went to Hastings Museum, Sturm Museum, the public library, and then they had some SEL activities. Westridge, their numbers are cut in half. They typically before, they didn't have as many students attending Westridge as Barr and Walnut. So their cap amount was 30, whereas the other 2 middle schools was 60. One thing, and sorry, Dr. Dexter, I haven't asked you about this, but one thing I would like to propose to you is, since we have 2 feeder schools going into Westridge and they are now bulked up, I would like to propose that we increase their numbers to match the other 2 middle schools for summer so that we can have 60, 60, and 60 for our cap number for the 3 middle schools. So their focus was on STEM again. A quote from one of the students: "I like how many people showed up even though it was not required. I appreciate how much we learned in a short amount of time. You found a way to make learning fun." They had several different speakers from the community come in, and that's also something that we want to focus on in the summer, just to continue to bring in those partnerships from the community into our schools. So they had some really awesome speakers coming in. Okay, I know I have some elementary people, so if you see your slide come up, just go ahead and come on up. So Title I. Title I really is to prevent that summer learning loss. Sorry, just checking. And close the achievement gaps. They really focus on math and language arts, and they try to engage those students in different reading experiences. They have the CKLA knowledge reading curriculum for the summer, and they had 4 reading interventionists that had those small groups. And then they also participated in community and enrichment experiences. They had 200 students in grades K through 4, 45 staff members, which is a 1 to 4 adult student ratio. They were assessed to be placed in specific intervention groups. The paras were trained in either reading or math. Again, they were using the CKLA for those knowledge and skills, and the community time was built around their theme of out of this world. I don't want to just keep on reading the slides to you guys, so I'll try to just highlight. The teachers really just love coming to the summer. They had 2 teachers at 1st and 2nd grade, otherwise 1 teacher was assigned to each grade level. They did have to really communicate to parents the importance of summer learning, as some parents were reluctant, and so that's something that we're going to be working on in our communication going forward to try to get more engagement. I don't know how loud this is going to be. Ooh. Good thing I checked. This was one of the experiences that the kids were able to do. I believe this is in one of their gyms. Which I do not know a kid that would not absolutely love this. So, just some fun, different experiences.
All the activities and what we are learning. I've been learning in summer school that I'm learning how to count my numbers and learning how to read.
Okay, there we go. Dodge had 23 students in their K through 4, 3 teachers, 3 paras. The school counselors, that's something that we want to continue across the board to help with our students if they're needing help in those different areas. They also use CKLA and Origo for their language arts and math lessons. We had our E3. This was a really fun program that Whitney Flower was working on this summer. So they had blocks of reading, math, and enrichment. They really focused on reading and that computational fluency. It was for kindergarten through 5th grade, and it was at Stolly at the same time that we had Summer Academy from 8 to 11, Monday through Thursday. Engelman had their high-risk reading program for students that scored well below on DIBELS. They also followed the same time frame of the other summer programs that were going on. 4 certified teachers, 3 paraprofessionals, and it was grades kindergarten and 1st grade only, but they did have 31 students participate in that program. Kate's not here, is she? No. Power Camp is always a huge, awesome thing for our kids in the summer, and we want to continue to support that. They had 160 kids participate, 12 different classes that had all sorts of different things that they were focusing on. They were able to take 3 field trips to Edgerton, Happy Brush, UNL Extension, oh, that's 4 field trips, and Imagination City. They had 12 teachers and 14 paras, and I do believe that they never have problems finding people to work this camp. It's something that is on everyone's watch list. They love doing it, and the kids love attending it.
I have been here at Power Camp for 2 years, and I think it's really fun because it gives you something to do for the summer.
Okay, Kenny, would you like to come up and talk about robotics? This was a new program that was offered at the high school. It was for our middle school students, and I think they had a great time. I'll let Kenny talk about it.
What do you want me to say exactly? Just everything? How it came apart?
You can talk about the camp.
I think the camp was a success. I mean, I think all the kids had fun. Did everything go the way I wanted it to go? No, but that should be expected. I think there was a beauty to the imperfection of it. I mean, as long as they had fun, that was really my entire point. It wasn't really about teaching them how to solder or teaching them how to use the robotics perfectly. It was more of planting that seed of curiosity in their head, and I think that's what got done. I think that's pretty much all I got to say.
So I talked about teacher leaders in the district, also student leaders as well. So it was great that we had Kenny help lead this camp throughout the summer. They had 16 middle school students show up, served 5 high school students. 25% of them were free and reduced lunch, and 31% were of minority. Extended school year.
Okay, I'm Morgan Wheeler, and I was the coordinator for elementary extended school year. On-site elementary, we had 22 students, 12 certified staff, and 13 classified staff.
I'm Molly Elge. I'm the secondary coordinator for ESY that's held at Walnut. And we had 8 certified teachers with 7 classified paraprofessionals. Well, I was just going to say, ESY is really an extension of their school year. So it's for those students in special education, PK 12 plus, and they qualify based on retention and recruitment, and also critical skills according to their individual education plan. And then that's just an end of the year little gathering that the secondary led a little field day for the elementary, and they loved it.
Oh, Jump Start. goes straight to my heart. Jumpstart, so much fun for our kids. Just some data for all three schools are going to come up here on the screen. Barra, 35% of their sixth grade students pre-registered, 34% of them showed up for one or more of those days. If you look at the data, talking about being nervous of going to middle school before attending Jumpstart and after, that nervousness came down quite a bit, feeling prepared before and after that increased, and you're gonna see that across all three buildings. This is a program that I absolutely love. Our teachers love it. Something that we wanna make sure, that we keep doing. One thing that we did focus on this year was to make sure that we really gave our sixth grade teachers the preference of working Jumpstart, because that just makes sense. We want it to be for our incoming sixth graders, so it makes sense that they meet their sixth grade teachers. So if there were enough people to fully staff it out of the sixth grade, that's what we went with. If there wasn't, then we went with other members of staff. We also tried to be sure that we had a social worker and or counselor that was going to be working with them at those as well as the school nurse, so that they could get an idea of what everything is going to be about. Our nutrition services also worked with us in a great way to help those students practice what it'd be like to eat lunch at the schools. Okay, I'll have Kyle Beeman come up and talk about our new fine arts camp at Senior High.
Thank you. I'm just going to give you a quick little skinny of what we did. We put on a fine arts camp for current 3rd through 8th graders in the district, and so what we did is we offered 2 sessions where there was a morning and afternoon. The reason why we did that is because we want to cater all students. So if you did Summer Academy, you were able to participate in the afternoon. It was 3 weeks, Monday through Thursday, and the courses offered were 2D art, 3D art, instrumental music, show choir, and music history. And out of those, I want to really compliment you, music history. They made handmade record players out of pencils, needles, and a piece of paper. So Jason Weaver, shout out to him, phenomenal guy. Yeah. How students how they selected their classes, everyone applied for 3 classes and they received at least 2 out of the 3, so they were interested in showing up to those. 105 students attended camp total. For me, we scheduled it to where we could have up to 240. So I see that number and I'm not too thrilled about it, but looking at like the time frame we were working in, like that's a pretty big success if you ask me. So just like a what's next of what to anticipate for what we want to do. Sam Hanks at the high school currently, she teaches language arts for freshmen, but she is a phenomenal theater person. She's someone that like within the district, like got a retainer. She's going to be a phenomenal asset for us, but she wants to do an after school elementary theater club. So if possible, we want to try to advertise earlier and more often. That's not a bash against anyone. That's just kind of something that the teachers and I all kind of came to the consensus on. We want to potentially extend the program. So once we hit that 240 marker, we know how we want to extend it, how we want to do it for a schedule, and then teachers that want to do that. We would add specifically a concentrated art class. So for example, like a ceramics or specifically acrylic paint, and then a dance class. All teachers have agreed to come back next year and participate, so 100% retention on our end, which is pretty good. And then we've also, I should have included this, we've kind of started to develop a little pipeline with Hastings College. We had a Hastings College student come and teach for us. She did a phenomenal job. She wants to come back and do it. Emily Pickup, she was a student TA for us. She wants to come back and teach. So anyone that gets participated in this wants to come back and help us out, so yeah. So we have a lot of growth we can do, but we're in the right direction, so awesome. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Yep.
I'll have Dr. DeFrank come on up. We also had a variety of different athletic clinics going on. We had a total of 262 of our students participate in those camps. They are able to learn and develop new skills and promote those leadership skills. Your 3 documents are here.
Oh, boy. Hi, I'm Ken. I work at Success Academy. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Just a shout out to all the middle school coaches. We did this in a very short time frame. You guys know what we've been through the last 2.5 years. And the coaches really stepped up. They did a phenomenal job. So did we have the numbers we want? No, but we have a good baseline now. We know where we need to improve. One of the things that Kyle mentioned and Jill and I are all working on is to have all the information out by spring break. So we'll have that lead time now. So coming in this year, coming at the beginning of the year, things will be much better planned. Have some great ideas from the coaches. You can see the numbers there. One thing I'd like to point out is Coach Doyle up at the high school. Went and visited with him, and he started an intro to athletic performance, because one of the challenges that was thrown out to us is offering more for sixth graders. And so intro to athletic performance was really a camp a clinic this summer, and it was teaching the kids the proper weightlifting, stretching, all of those things. We only had 10 to 15 that came. A lot of that was due to just the time frame, that quick time frame. We were trying to get all the information out, transportation. We've kind of revamped it for next year. It'll be offered in the spring, and it'll be hosted at each each middle school. So nobody will have to travel, it'll be there. And then when those kids complete that intro to athletic performance, when those summer clinics are offered, they'll be ready to go. They'll be ready to go from the get-go. So that was very important to us. We do have some ideas kicking around. I'm not going to tell you about them. I like to tease things out through Mitch, like our esports coming up. I don't know if you saw a little bit about that, but that's going to be hitting the airwaves pretty soon. We're very excited about the esports. I don't know, it's competitive gaming, so that's going to be coming up. We're going to try to offer some different activities during the school year for the 3rd through 6th grade kids. And then just working with the middle school ADs has been very, very nice. Great bunch of guys. And we're planning, if you ever dealt with coaches, they're very driven and they know what they want. And so working with all the coaches is trying to get everybody on the same page, so we're building multi-sport athletes starting out in the 3rd grade. So by the time they're hitting 9th grade, they're playing 2 sports a year, and they know those things. So that's the long-term goal. So, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
I promise, we're almost done. So I've alluded to a few of these next steps already. So instead of planning in January, we are going to be planning for summer in November. I have met with just about every department, I think, except for Corey, so you're next. I think we're good until November, though. But yeah, I already have meetings set up with HR, finance, communications to get the process rolling in November so that all of that back-end stuff can be ready and good to go when we hire our coordinators in January. We hire them that early because it just takes that much time to plan and get ready. And again, all of these leaders, they're teachers or counselors or doing something else in the district. So it is a lot of work to ask of them. Like what Dr. DeFrank was saying, our goal is to have transportation planned by spring break, communication of all these summer things happening, also starting by spring break as well. And that's something that Mitch and I have been working on, and we are ready to go. We've got a lot of plans in the works for that. These are just a couple of the key things that we're going to be focusing on. Dr. Dexter alluded to a website. So that's something that I am working on building right now, and it's strictly just for our coordinators. If you have ever lived in the world of Drive, Google Drive, things tend to get lost. And if you are new coming into a position and you're just shared this folder, there's always just so much out there. So what I'm working on is building a website that has everything nice and organized, laid out for our leaders so that when they come in, they already have a resource ready for them to look at, and it's organized and ready to go for them. So that will be ready come this winter, I guess, too. that's what I have. Questions?
Thank you so much. What is your title besides Superwoman? What is your title?
I'm a 7th grade math teacher at Walnut. I mean, I'll just tell you just these 2 things. I do too many other things. But I think the name that we decided on was the Summer Design Leader is what we're...
Well done. Your passion shows, and we appreciate it.
I love the summertime.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little different this year. One thing that I did here, I met with, I think, every single program this summer, at least once. Like I said, I've met with just about all of the departments up here at the Neal Building. One thing that I really heard from everyone is they're just so glad that there's someone putting all of the puzzle pieces together. So I'm really hoping that because I'm working on this, hopefully it's more organized for everyone coming forward that's coming into these leadership positions. Things can run more smoothly. We can get that communication out there earlier, more of it, so we get more of our students engaged in summer activities.
Those are all great plans. Mr. Hawley?
On your Jumpstart 6 program, you guys had some really great feedback. You know, in the beginning, the majority of students not feeling comfortable going to middle school, and then at the end, there was a significant amount that were. At Westridge, I want to say at a glance, the numbers were about 90% of students that came back and said, yep, I feel ready for middle school. Do you have any data on how many of those were from the 2 new feeder schools?
No, but I might be able to figure that out. I might be able to disaggregate that. I just have to pull up their form.
Mrs. Inkle?
I have a couple questions. First of all, I wanted to mention I was really happy to hear you say curiosity, because we hear so often that the curiosity, building that, is what's important in kids, and so thank you for fostering that. Can you explain a little bit about how, and maybe you don't know, so if I put you on the spot, I'm sorry, but how all of this is paid for and like how the transportation works? Do we have transportation for all of it or just some of the programs?
Most of our programs were able to participate in transportation in one way, shape, or form. Most of the programs this summer were funded out of ESSER funds. So we do have 2 more years, I believe, with those funds. So that's where most of our funding came from.
So note to school board, we have to figure out how to replace ESSER funds at some point. Because this is just amazing, and we know that these connections, like you said, the relationships are so important. The last question I had was, I saw for the Jumpstart, we love that program too, so it's exciting to see it. But the numbers of people who attended in Bar and Walnut seemed a lot lower. Do we know, was that because of transportation, just lack of information? Do you have a sense for how we could get more kids there to come?
I think a part of it is getting the communication out there earlier. I don't know if it was pushed as hard maybe this year as it has been in the past. That's one thing that Mitch and I are working on for all of the programs, getting out there, not just communication from GIPS, but where else can we put it to have it communicated out to our families. So knowing where do our families receive their communication, that's going to be super important as we go forward.
Ms. Wolf?
I feel like I'm not close enough. Hold on.
I feel your pain.
I was going to say, I appreciate that you are changing a name for what we'll affectionately call summer school, because I know when I had some friends that had their kids attending, another person overheard and was like, oh, your kid has to go to the summer school. It was terrible when I was a kid and you were in trouble and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, you don't understand. It's fun now. It's a fun thing now. So I greatly appreciate that we are able to revision summer school. And since even before I was on the board, I always looked forward to your presentations when I would sit out in the crowd as a stakeholder and learn things, because I appreciate your passion. I am not passionate about math, so I appreciate that you are passionate about math and about teaching our students about math. And I want to give a kudos to Kenny for being involved. I want to give kudos to the staff that were able to attend and share information. One, I like your jumpsuit. And two, I appreciated the information because I came from teaching music, and I sat there and was like, how did we make music history fun? And so I appreciated sharing out that information and that we were able to provide so many opportunities to our students so we wouldn't have so much of a learning break per se. And I appreciate you driving the bus.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Just a comment, I really appreciate, the leadership of how you're doing this, because this is a very comprehensive summer program, and it's not really summer, it's like summer of fun. That's what it looks like from the pictures we see, and just the activities that you guys are doing. A really big shout out for the staff that's stepping up to do this, because there is a huge need in this community for summer programs to get kids, just keep them going. And especially when you're transitioning to middle school, what a great program for the sixth graders. So again, shout out for the staff. Awesome, and we'll get the numbers. It's just a matter of getting the information out. It's organized. Thank you.
Mr. Barsness.
Ditto everything. Again, thank you. And I love that even though, yes, it is fun, you continue to challenge the kids and create experiences of learning that are just creating more curiosity. Kenny, was it youth leadership tomorrow when we walked down 4th Street? Was it? Okay, so yeah, I was gonna say, I was pretty sure it was you, but we did a quick tour of businesses, and that morning we got rained on, snowed on, sun, and just in the stretch of walking. But anyway, I think when you say, we have student leaders and we have older leaders, I just ran into someone else who was like amazed at the experience they had with teaching and with just running into kids. So thank you for those opportunities. We have a lot of great things happening, and we will get the numbers, and it's good that we continue to be challenged of, okay, what are we gonna do next? How do we continue to talk about funding, and where does that come from? So not only, and always been proud of, thank you for always living the mission of meeting every kid where they're at and creating an opportunity for them to be challenged and grow. So thank you to all of you.
Anything else? Excellent.
I just want to say thank you for, thanking me, but really, I'm just trying to, again, put the puzzle pieces together. All of the work really came from our coordinators and our leaders that were running these programs. So if you're out in the buildings, that's where these leaders are coming from. If you see them, please thank them for all of the work that they do, and our teachers. I mean, it is a lot to ask, especially after these last couple of years, to come in on their time off and work with kids, but that's why we are here, because we love kids. So none of this would happen without everyone who is involved, so.
Thank you so much. (9.3) Presentation on FIT 2022 Summer Program Support.
Well, we had the opportunity to apply for 2 grants, the ARP funding grants, specifically for homeless and, what's a youth? Unaccompanied youth. And so we targeted the Early Learning Center and then our K-12 program. We had the opportunity to have 2 of our own social workers, Amy Hanna and Nancy Jimenez. Nancy wanted to be here tonight, but her daughter is starting at Walnut, and so they had open house, so she couldn't be here. But the stories they both told me just today about what all they accomplished just in the summer and how they connected families, and I don't know how we've done without it. So Amy's going to share some of those experiences.
I feel like I have a lot of information to share, but I'm just excited about all that we accomplished in the months of June and July in connecting with some of our neediest families. One of the first things that we did was create a new flyer that we are using regarding families in transition. It has a QR code that they can get on with their phone, and it links them right to our Families in Transition program information. So this flyer we have distributed so far in 21 agencies and businesses around town. It's available in English, Spanish, and Arabic. We've also put it in our little free food pantries around town. We're going to get it into some of the motels where our families are staying, just where the families that need it will see this information. We're also hopeful that by sharing it with a variety of agencies that they will help us identify more of our homeless families. We were also able to do some individual meetings and discussions with some agencies in town during this time. We met with the Bannisters Leadership Academy, which had a summer program this summer that was teaching employment skills to high school kids, and they offered them a stipend for attending. We kind of learned about it a little bit late, but we did have 3 high school students that were able to take advantage of that program. We also communicated with Literacy Council and worked a lot with Hope Harbor and Willow Rising, formerly the Crisis Center. During our 2 months, we were a small group of 4. It was Nancy and myself, and then we also worked with Holly and Brian at Families in Transition. So we made contact with the families of 191 students during that time. And these were both students that were identified last school year and students that we've already started to identify for our new school year. Some of our data showed that 108 of these students were Hispanic families. And looking at the number of interventions and contacts that we made over 600 contacts with those families during that time. And we provided a lot of different kind of services. So the biggest thing we did was just get information out about a lot of the community resources that are available for families. Even if we were leaving a voicemail message, we were telling them about our back to school bash or about summer activities that we were offering, just different things. So even if we couldn't talk to them, we were trying to get that information out. With some of our grant funding, we were also able to provide some of our student needs. We have 32 students that we were able to purchase clothing for them for the new school year. 45 students got new shoes for school. We do have a lot of our high school students, especially our unaccompanied students, are working full-time during the summer and a lot during the school year also. We had 2 students that are working construction full-time this summer, and they were going to work in tennis shoes. So we were able to get them some steel-toed boots so they could do their work safely and not have to worry about some of those other things. We provided beds to 3 of our families. English tutoring services, that was, we had an unaccompanied student that came, and he is so eager to learn. And we ran into some obstacles in town trying to find him a program for the summer. A lot of the English classes aren't necessarily meeting during the summer. And the Literacy Council works with adults. So we were fortunate that we were able to find a GIPS employee, and they stepped up and tutored the student 3 times a week. So, and it's a student that he will have later this year. So they were able to build that relationship and make a connection. So we had another student we were trying to get set up, but we didn't get her to follow through on that. But we have since talked with the Literacy Council too and are trying to work out some things, so there will be more services offered for them possibly next summer. We also provided some supplemental learning materials for some of our newcomer students. We have a little girl going into kindergarten that is new to our country and to Grand Island from Russia. She was able to attend summer school with kindergarten at West Lawn, and then we were able to provide some workbooks and flashcards and things like that so she could kind of get a head start on her learning before she starts school next week. I know you're all familiar with the school supplies. Our back to school bash was amazing. And we were able to make sure that some of our neediest students got those supplies if they weren't able to come to the back to school bash. Some of our grant funding also provided insurance for those high school kids for their computers. So we were able to work that out. We had a few families that are having car issues. It just happens that one of our churches in town is doing a car care day this weekend, so we were able to connect 8 of our families with that program, and also worked with a local business here in town to get a couple cars looked at and hook some families up with some resources to get those car repairs made. We did some food resources, not as much as I thought we would. We did provide a lot of information on where they could go to access food. We did tap in also to the Garden of Hope at Third City Christian Church, and made a connection there where they provided us with their fresh vegetables from the garden that we were able to share with some of our families. We did provide some transportation services, either through taxi or us driving students to some programs this summer. And we had one high school student that was able to finish her credits this summer. And when I contacted her to check in, she was interested in college but didn't really know what to do. So we were able to contact Central Community College, and they reached out to the student. And so she's got some contacts about the nursing program and is excited to get started in that. She's a single mom. She has 2 sisters, and she's the first to graduate in her family. So excited to see where she goes from here. Sorry, like I said, I have a lot of information to share. 27 of our students, we were able to get enrolled, again with our grant funding, into some summer activities or GIPS summer school programs. We worked with the YMCA, which gave us a member rate to get some of our kids into the camps there. We had some kids do the GISH sports camps, Parks and Rec, Stewart Museum. We had some scholarships through there. Twisters worked with us on uniforms for kids doing the gymnastics classes. Again, the Bannisters Academy that I talked about earlier. And then our power camp, which was hard for our kids to get into because it fills up so fast. But and then I just have a couple pictures of some of our kiddos that took advantage of some of our programs this summer. This little girl went to kinder camp at Stolly Park for 2 weeks, and that's just, her grandma was pretty appreciative that we were able to help her do that. Another little guy did the football camp at Gish, and he's ready to be a future Islander. And then some of our kiddos that went to Stewart Museum this summer. One of the big things that, as they talked about earlier, was school transition, and this was especially for our newcomer families and our unaccompanied families, was really getting them registered for those Jumpstart classes and making sure they knew about open house at Gish, and that they got there. And Nancy did a really good job with that. She gathered up a group of like 15 kids and took them to Grand Island Senior High for the open house. Made sure that they knew where to go, what questions to ask, and who were their people to connect with once they get there. So that was probably one of the biggest things that families have appreciated. And there are some of our future Islanders. In working with the program this summer, we have already identified 99 students as homeless for this upcoming school year, which is a jump from where we have been in the past. Usually we don't start that identification until after school starts. So 51 of them came through our Welcome Center, 17 through our shelters. But we also did some work with Jamie Wattier, with Synergy, to try to pull that data, which we haven't done before, on the families that are telling us on the online registration that they are homeless. So we were able to start with a list of those students. We also did some checking through Synergy of addresses, trying to find those families that list a hotel or doubled up as their address so that we could make contact with them. And we also did some reflection after our time ended, and some of our concerns, we'll start with the concerns first, but we did have some concerns regarding our transportation. We utilized the taxi services, and we had a lot of issues with our taxi services this year. Our kids weren't getting picked up and weren't getting taken to their classes. Sometimes even after we made multiple calls trying to get them there. So we're gonna have to kind of look at what we can do instead to make sure that they're able to go once we sign them up for those groups. Like everybody else has mentioned, we're also hoping to get started earlier next year so that we can get them into some of those programs. Some of the Parks and Recs programs fill up really fast. Some of the Stewart Museum, Power Camp, so that our kids can get those experiences that they don't normally have. The last thing that was a concern is we're gonna need more Spanish language support for next year. Nancy handled the bulk of that for us this year. I did a lot of texting with a Spanish app, which was semi-successful. So just making that a priority next year. But we also noted that during our Jumpstart classes and even the open house at Gish, that there wasn't a lot of support for those newcomer students. So trying to find a way to make that a little easier for them next year. But the positives that we found were that our newcomer parents and guardians and the unaccompanied youth felt more connected and comfortable knowing about school before the school year starts. So Nancy was able to connect them with a lot of the staff members, with Mr. Hubbard. We did the same thing at Walnut and Bar, just to try to get them a little more acclimated to the school. We're also hopeful that us being involved and connected with those families this summer will keep a lot of those crises that usually happen at the beginning of the year from happening, because we were able to start identifying them and providing them a lot more support a lot earlier. So I was excited to be part of that program, and I'm excited to see what we can do with it again next year.
Thank you for your presentation. We love the FIT program, and we love hearing from you. So Brian always talks for quite a while too, but we all love it, so it's totally fine.
Sorry, I had a lot to say.
No, it was awesome. No, you had our attention.
And I'll just add a little more. As part of the expectation of the grant, I have to participate in monthly just kind of roundtable sessions where we share. And so the first one, I was like, because I literally threw this grant together in an evening because it came late and then we tight turnaround. But so put it together, and in the first session, I thought, well, I'm going to learn a lot because I didn't do a whole lot. But they were blown away with our program and what we were trying to do and the emphasis and how 4 people could make such an impact. And so just recently we were asked to be on a panel at the national conference. So I believe Amy's going to go, and Holly trying to twist Nancy's arm. But just, recognize for all the work that our social workers do, and then to spend their summers digging even deeper for families was just awesome.
Thank you. Oh, we have some questions, Robin.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Mrs. Hinkle.
So earlier, when we were going over the summer programs, this was mentioned, and then you're talking about newcomers, and I was just curious, and maybe you don't know this, but how many families from Afghanistan, refugees from Afghanistan, do we have in our schools? Do you know?
I was the 21, the new families are the ones that I'm aware of, but my understanding was that one of those families has moved out of Grand Island.
And so, and then you mentioned the little girl who was from Russia. Do we have interpreters for them, or are they speaking English already, or is that?
She has limited English. I think they were primarily using her grandmother who already lived here and that they came to live with as the primary interpreter.
And then how about for the refugees from Afghanistan? Is there?
I'm not sure what they've been,
Yeah.
the health
Swift,
department
yeah,
too has
health
been
department.
working a lot with them.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then Swift has an interpreter that, he's just worn out.
Oh.
But, it's, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything that you're doing. It's a wonderful program.
Thank you.
Mr. Alinsky?
Throwing those numbers up there of these are pre-K, these are elementary, these are middle school, these are high school. There was a big discrepancy between pre-K and elementary. Is that due to not knowing because they're in the system yet, or is it why was there only like 5 pre-K? But I don't remember, I should write the numbers, but there's like 39 elementary students. Why was there such a big gap there?
I think a lot of it is we don't know our preschoolers yet. There's also a waiting list for some of the preschool programs, and so we haven't found all of those families yet.
Ms. Wolf?
Thank you so much for all of the work that you do for our students. And that's to all of our social workers. I just had a question in regards to unaccompanied students. And I understand information is protected to a point. I was just curious how many are siblings, because I saw elementary aged under unaccompanied. So I'm assuming maybe they're with a sibling, but I was just curious on that. How many, I guess, siblings do we have in that unaccompanied category?
I would say less than half. The elementary ones that I know, the 2 of the kiddos came with an older sibling, but it was because like one of their circumstances was one of the parents died in their home country and the other parent wasn't able to care for them anymore. So they sent them here, and a relative was able to kind of take them in. One of our other situations was they were crossing with mom and somehow got separated, and they don't know where mom is. So there was an aunt here in Grand Island that took responsibility for the kids, and so they're still trying to find out where mom is, but we're trying to assess what the trauma might be for those kids too, and see what those needs are going to be for them this fall.
Okay, no, thank you very much. And then I just had a quick question in regards to Crane. Have we looked at the Crane transportation system? They do have a document that could be signed for quote-unquote unaccompanied youth. And to a point, I feel like they're reliable. Good old grandma rides with them all the time. They haven't forgotten her or lost her yet, so I'm happy about that. But I just didn't know, is that an option?
Crane in the past hasn't wanted to transport students, so that hasn't been an option. And in the few cases that we have been able to set up, you have to do it in advance too. So we just don't have a lot of good options.
Okay, thank you very much. Great presentation. Nine point four, request for changes to the GIPS Hall County Truancy Agreement.
Get back out of here. And Marty Klein is here as well. And just weighing heavy on our hearts, and especially for Marty. He started this program and putting it together. We've made tweaks along the way, and we continue to reflect and take a look at it. But just like we're all experiencing with staffing, he's down an attorney and just can't put any more on his other attorneys or he's going to lose them. So Marty's coming here tonight to ask the board to let the attorney's office out of the MOU that we had signed. And we had, within 90 days, either one of us could pull out, but he's asking that we waive the 90 days and we not have the memo of understanding. Shared this news with our social workers this afternoon, and not happy, but immediately just turned it around and said, okay, how are we gonna make it work without the assistant district attorney sitting in this room Monday through Friday, meeting with parents, trying to help problem solve, kind of as a diversion to going to court. And they just came up with, Marty had brought up that we have an 1184 meeting that meets once a month on Fridays that our social workers attend, and DHHS, county attorney's office, and it's for educational neglect. So that is absenteeism, lack of support for education. And so that's an opportunity for us to come together, brainstorm our chronic kids. And Marty has also been working with a group, and he can maybe speak a little more to this, that restorative justice, where it's a regional center where before going to court, Marty can file a request that they work with the families and intervene as that next step before going to court. We also brought up Strengthening Families, is put on by Central Nebraska on alcoholism and addiction. It's an 11-week course, which makes it really tough for families, but the families that do stick with it, it makes a tremendous improvement in them being able to support themselves. And then we put together a document last August, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 support for attendance issues. Some schools have really used it, bought into it. Social workers brought it back to the table and just said, we don't have the assistant district attorney sitting here strongly encouraging parents to get kids to school. We really feel like if the building administrator, if we can ask that they be at the intervention planning meeting to be kind of the hammer, so that the social worker can still be the relationship builder and working to support. So just in a matter of 45 minutes, really brainstormed, how can we continue to work with Hall County Court System and Marty, and then still be there to support our families through the truancy part. And I did want to share, Dr. Grover had asked about just some data on our chronic attendance, and our data wizard, Dr. Dahl, helped put this together, or did put it together. And just comparing our attendance to other schools. Let's see here. So you have the AQuest recognition, good, needs improvement. And I get these skills, okay. So you can see where GIPS compares to Lexington, South Sioux, OPS, Bellevue, and Northwest. And you can see in the yellow, the percent of students or the percent of attendance. So you have GIPS 92, Lex 96, South Sioux 95, 88% with OPS, 94 Bellevue, and 93 Hastings, and, sorry, need Dr. Dahl to run it. And Kearney in the Northwest.
So the yellow is students that do attend?
We have 95% attendance, yeah. So that's that. It's a combination of factors, attendance being one of those factors. And this, Dr. Dahl has that down here too. So it's attendance, dropout, college going, graduation rate, all of those are included in there. It's, when change, well, just like with us, trying to find staff and got creative, we're just gonna get creative and see what we can do to continue to support our social workers and then our families. Questions, Marty? Anything?
May I say a couple of things?
Yes, of course.
This is really hard. I'm looking back at Ms. Hannah, who's sitting there, who started with me. I didn't devise this program. I came in after the social workers at the time did. Michelle Oldham was from my office at the time, but I did take the first attendance hearing sitting in Dr. Grover's seat right there. We batted it around. We talked about batting it around. I had some euphemisms that as I left for Lincoln, my wonderful social worker friends made a video with my kids at Newell and had them say all the things that I would say. I'd turn and point to every student every day as success. And this is really hard. I believe in what we did. I believe in what we do. I believe in the school. I believe in the social workers. This is hard. I just don't have anybody that I can put over here, and I don't think forcing somebody to come over here is the right thing for this group either. I could order somebody to go over there, but it's not, if it's not the right fit, it doesn't work as well. And I happened to have a couple young kids when I started this process out, and I remember sitting there the first time that I was in this room and in the hearing, and I got my kindergartner, Newell, and I dropped my 2-year-old off at Giggles Daycare just up the street, and I came in here, and I talked to the parent, I'm like, well, I can do it, why the heck can't you do it? And my social worker's like, no, don't do that. That's what they need. That family doesn't have a car. You know, so I learned a lot. I'm sorry that we can't staff this. I think this program does good things. I think there are a lot of reasons why it worked. I think having the hammer, you talk about that, I think our social workers need to have somebody else who's willing to leverage a little bit more assertiveness, hammer, whatever you want to say, because our social workers need to be positioned to be the friendly one from the school if you have to do that. So this hurts, and I'm here very reluctantly. But I don't think sending somebody over is the right thing to do. Somebody who, I've asked my folks, when you come out of law school, you want to be a prosecutor and you're looking to be a prosecutor, doing this type of job isn't the first thing you think about. You want to try felonies, you want to try murder cases and DUIs and get bad people off the streets. So this isn't the first thing that folks think about doing. When I got assigned over here, it wasn't the first thing I thought about doing, but it turned out to be amazing. And I did it for about 6 years. So I wasn't in any hurry, to leave what we did. There is, to soften the blow a little bit, and Dr. Dexter talked about it a little bit, there is something that thankfully happened to come our way, which is a grant that has the Nebraska Juvenile Restorative Justice and Family Intervention Initiative. It's mediation. So what we do here was a form of mediation. So as the referrals come to my office, there are hard cases that they come to the office and they may end up in front of court. We'll still have the opportunity to engage this system. Garrett, the last guy who was here, Garrett Schroeder, has already, with some of the referrals from the last school year, has already sent 10 referrals over to this restorative justice mediation center, which will allow them, it has to be court involved or something that would be court involved, so there has to be a referral before we can engage this, is what I understand. But we're going to look into the possibility, does it take a referral to trigger this or not? I don't know the answer to that question. But we've got something that can help lessen the blow a little bit, and it would have some similar nature to what we did in here. The last thing that I'll tell you is I'm available. They have a 7:30 meeting. I missed it. I can't believe it. They started on the 5th. They have a 7:30 meeting every Friday that I personally attend, which the schools collaborative bring folks in. They have the 1184 educational neglect. I personally going to attend that as well to the extent possible. One of the best things that came out of this was the plugging all these agencies in together, probation with DHHS, with your CACs, with the county attorney's office, with the schools, social workers, the principals. I'm going to do everything that I can personally to keep that connection alive. I expect that my social workers give me a call and say, hey, do you guys have this person on your radar? They've all got my cell phone, or if they don't, Ms. Hannah will help me get them out. But I want to be as available as possible because that's how we're going to serve, for me, the citizens of Hall County, for you folks, the students of Grand Island Public Schools. So I appreciate the time to speak, and let me mourn this a little bit. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything that you might want to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. You obviously have a heart for this work. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. Thank you. Ms. Wolf?
Go first. No. Sorry, I was surprised. I know this is near and dear to your heart, and I appreciate you being here to share this information with us as well. I just have a couple of questions in regards to the grant that you mentioned. The Central Region Mediation Center is quite large in regards to the coverage area. So one of my concerns is, and you may not know the answer and that's fine, but I think we need to think about it, is since they cover such a large area, how delayed will things potentially be in regards to acting on, a referral?
I don't know the answer to that question. I hope to be able to give you feedback after Garrett's test run of cases that he's brought through. Again, I think it was 10, but he's already filed. There's a form that I was just looking at. It's the referral form. I don't know, but I'm happy to come back and report back to you what that looks like.
And one of our social workers today shared that she'd heard they'd hired 2 more staff. So they're continuing to hire.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Brose?
Thank you. Well, having sat on this side of the desk when Marty was here and having Ann Grieving Brown sit next to me with the student or with the parent, this program worked. And I'm thinking particularly of 2 students that I had that, I've since obviously lost track of, but, we were able to turn them around. So on top of that, I guess, I'd like to know what the plan is, and I know you had ideas coming together this afternoon, Dr. Dexter, but as a principal, I relied on that after watching how the attendance for certain individuals went downhill. How are we going to communicate to our principals what we're going to do to help them with this problem? That's basically my question. What are we communicating to them, and what will they know and be able to do as a result of that communication? Okay. Well, what I'm asking for really is to come back in a month or 2 and share your plan with us, because we've got to do something. And truancy, as much as we don't want to admit it, is for some families an issue, but there are always a multitude of reasons behind that, and we have to problem solve.
You bet. And like I said, this is our first meeting today with social workers coming back. And
this was a relatively recent development, and I've been trying to hire all summer, so Robin hasn't had this information all that terribly long.
And that was an indictment. I'm just saying, and we heard about this, some of us heard about it earlier in one of our committee meetings, but it's just that this is so important. We've got to have we have to have some kind of plan so that teachers and administrators know that these things don't go unnoticed, and here's the protocol that we're going to have in place for that. So, and I'm sorry, Marty, I'm really sorry that it came to this.
I am too.
But I get it. I understand.
Mr. Alinsky?
My understanding then that once this happens, it's done. It's not a year contract and then we're done type thing, correct? Do you understand what I'm saying? That when this program is done, that's it. There's no, we'll pull the contract out, but the contract's good until, I don't know, December. I'm just throwing out months there or whatever. So once this is set, that part of this is over. Is that correct?
I'll answer from my perspective. I believe in the program, and if the situation finds ourselves where we can place somebody over here who would do a good job and you guys want to re-engage, I'm open to that possibility. For me, right now, today, I will have somebody here if you want me to honor the 90-day notice. I will have somebody here until we get through those hearings. There are hearings that we scheduled. We'll have somebody here. It'll probably be me. And I love coming over here, so that's not a bad thing. But I would think it would be If we re-engage this program, I would expect it to probably be a semester-to-semester sort of thing. If we catch up and we find the right person and we hire the right person with this in mind. And by the way, anybody that I talk about hiring will have the conversation about, is this something you'd be interested in engaging in? But I would expect if the right person came along, I might be giving Robin a call and seeing if we can kick this back up in January. I'm open to that possibility.
Okay, and that's just my concern, Marty, and I know it's eating you up, I can tell. It really is, I know it is. I've been in that position where you have to make that tough call several times. I just want to make sure that if we have a leeway there, that we're using that until we have something in place. And if we get something in place before that 90 days is over, then obviously we can talk about that then and say, okay, but I know you'll do what you can. But that's the only thing that I really ask, if at all possible. And I know you're a very busy man. You got lots of things, lots of balls in the air, and I get that. But that's the only thing that I ask is that if we have 90 days, let's see if we can't get a plan within that 90 days. So when this is done, we have something to start going off on. That's it.
Sure.
And it sounds like we don't have a plan, but we do have a plan. And,
Right, and I know we talked about that a little bit. Committee kind of threw some ideas around, but nothing said. But that's.
So what we talked a little bit about today is, this day is going to come. And so are we putting it off? Can we have processes and procedures in place for school starting Monday? And then continue to work with Marty with the different options we've talked about. To me, that's where we need to go. But like the social worker said, well, can we keep that money kind of pigeonholed so when we do get somebody, we can get it back? You don't give the money to somebody else? So, that's another kind of thought to have.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Marty, for your hard work with this and our social workers and working with them and working with us. It's, as Dr. Brose says, it's an issue and it's an onion. Many layers are a reason why these kids are truant. Unfortunately, we got to figure that out and go from there. So thank you.
Mr. Barsonas.
Thank you, and I really appreciate your example earlier. I asked a lot, we've talked about this before getting here tonight. I had a lot of questions about why kids, the attendance, and I'm glad we brought the kind of comparison of others and what's there. And I asked a lot of questions about, we've had those conversations of, some of us got the letters because, well, we took our kids on vacation, right? And then there's others that got the letters because they're truly struggling. And kind of like with the FIT program that we have, just right now, where we are as a community, what we're struggling with, there is looking for people to come and work. There is so many multiple things that we just need to come together in. But it can be so easy to look at absenteeism in a way of, well, we need to keep it accountable, and it's, do or die, and we have to go after them. But I love what you brought up of so many times we don't understand what our families go through because if I can do it, you can do it, but there's sometimes a disconnect. And I love that we've taken always the approach of, well, we need to figure out what's the reason our kids are absent. And yes, keep the accountability. So anything that we can continue to work on and finding out. I always love Dr. Dole's data that we can aggregate and then disaggregate and be able to say, hey, this is the reason. So the more that we can continue to partner. And I just love that not only were you faced with, or our social workers faced with an issue, with a problem, but they also brought up, all right, what can we do about it, right? It's not just about naming, well, this is happening, it's an issue. Well, we're also going to bring possible solutions to the table. So thank you for, again, that we can continue work as a community. It's not just a school, and we'll make the best out of it for our families and for our kids. Thank you.
If there's any group that can figure something out, it's going to be these social workers.
I believe it. Mrs. Hinkle.
So I think the request in front of us is to waive the 90 days. And I could support that because we are at the start of school. And so I would assume it takes a little while for us to get to a point where kids have become truant and would come to the court. Is that a fair statement, or do we normally have a court within a week of school starting?
So how much time do you want to go? Because of my position here, at one point in time, I got to help write the attendance law in the state of Nebraska. And so the answer is no, we don't hit the reset button, which I think is a good thing.
Okay.
And we specifically wrote into the statute that it is within the year. And earlier in the statute, it says the school year. So we specifically can look back into the second semester, and if we've got folks who are starting to blossom up, blossom's the wrong word, we're starting to see a mushroom of a problem of attendance, we don't have to hit the reset button in August. We can continue that work that we started in May, in April or May, into August and September. So I tell you, we actually have some hearings scheduled for, I think, the second or third week of school to touch base with some of the folks who we were concerned about back in April and May. So again, I will, if we think we want to do a handoff, I'll be over here. We'll make it work. We do have folks that are scheduled to come back
Okay.
in the second and then third and into early September, I think. So that would cut against my request a little bit, and I want to admit that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I didn't understand it that way, so that's good to know. But I guess, Dr. Dexter, then you sound like you feel comfortable that the social workers and with your help can create a plan that we could waive the 90 days.
Yes, and we already brainstorming the data, how do we keep it, how do we make sure that those kids that were scheduled, that they have a meeting, they have the principal with them, and, you know, they don't stop.
Okay.
And so, yeah. And we'll continue to work with Marty.
I'm not going away. Okay, I mean, I really mean that. I personally am committed to this relationship with the school. I will continue to be available to be helpful in whatever that looks like. It just won't be with me sitting where Dr. Gruber is sitting.
And this is info and then action later tonight, so.
Sure, everybody.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so
I
much.
will honor whatever you decide to do.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
9.5, request to add FTE. Mrs. Irie?
Good evening, Dr. Grover and board. I have to apologize because y'all are going to see a lot of me tonight because I got a lot of real estate on this agenda. So the good news is I'll bring Brian Court in a little later so you get to get a break from me. So the first item I have is to request to add an FTE for our HR department. It is a 1.0 FTE benefits coordinator. It would be a 40 to 60 salary range on the base from the general fund. The reason this request is being made is in January, all the benefits functions were transferred from finance to HR. However, as we're going through and setting up and learning the benefits side of things internally from HR's perspective, we realized we have over 1,500 employees that all the benefits administration is done by 1.50 person. So when we internally reorganized on the HR side, we've done so much cross-training that we've really expanded capability without having to add HR staff, despite the fact that our numbers go up every year as a district. But it's not something that we're capable of taking on. And from the benefits side of things, the real concern is if this person decides to leave in any way, if that's retirement, if that's otherwise, we don't have capacity to manage that right now. So the goal is to add the 1.0 with the idea that when this person decides to eventually leave, that 0.50 will go away. But it's not practical to just add the 0.50 now and try to, first of all, get someone on a part-time basis to learn all the ins and outs and all the requirements of administration, and be able to have those two people train at a 0.50 each. It doesn't make sense. So ideally, the 0.50 will go away when that person decides to leave, but the 1.0 will give us the full capacity of what we need to train and set up much more capable benefit systems. Answer any questions?
Thank you. Any questions, anybody?
Yeah.
Mrs. Hinkle?
I'll just share that we reviewed this in the personnel committee meeting, and we kind of talked about this last month too. This is a very important support person for our employees, for the teachers. You want to make sure your benefits are correct, and you want to make sure that there's help when they need it. And then also, I know your area, your department is taking a look at all the benefits that we currently offer, hoping to find, other possibilities that will allow us to provide more to teachers with and be more reasonably priced, let's put it that way. So I think this is a important position, and I think that in the Personnel Committee, we supported it.
Part of that role will be really tackling the benefits, understanding, we're already looking at things we can add that won't even cost extra, but it's more offerings to the employees, but we don't have the capacity to really put that together right now. We'll be doing several RFPs moving forward.
Thank you. 9.6, adding FTE request, lead campus monitor at GISH.
Excuse me. This position, it was just being brought forth for information tonight. It will not be in action until next month, so to give opportunity for it to be fully digested. But the request has been made for Grand Island Senior High to add a campus monitor, a lead campus monitor, to supervise the other campus monitors, conduct evaluations, training, assist student services, principal, campus security checks, safety investigation, building and ground safety assessments, safety presentations, drills, and threat assessments as required. So this position was requested in addition to other security positions that have recently been added, because this is more of the campus monitor, a lot more interaction with the students. But of course, let me see, I don't know if Lee's here. Is he out there? If you have questions, Lee would be the person to answer.
Mrs. Hinkle?
So one of the questions I have is, I know we're looking for a retired law enforcement, is that correct? So will they actually still, will they be like a school resource officer where they carry a gun and so forth? And if so, is there any liability then for the school district for that?
So anyway, if they are retired, under the HR 20 rule, obviously you could still carry, but there is a law that says that it has to go through the school board, and for them to have that, we're still looking into that. As a certified officer, they'd have to go through GIPD. That's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for someone that could help on that behavioral level, but also maybe be a backup for the SROs that are up there if they need that source. So,
okay,
yeah. There's always that option, though.
Okay.
Always that option, but that would be something we'd bring before
So
the
they
board.
keep their certification even upon
We
retirement?
would like them to keep that, yes. I have a HR 20, which means that if I retire in good standings with the department that I retire with, they certify me in firearms. But the law states that it's like a concealed carry permit. I cannot carry it on to campuses. I mean, it can be in my car, but I can't carry it on. I don't carry it in our vehicles. I can't bring it into this building based off of the policy and rules that we have for this building.
Okay, all right, thank you. And so then would they continue to go through professional development, either that we provide or is provided elsewhere? Or?
Yes, this is why we would want somebody like that can keep up on maybe any type of laws or anything that we can help out with the school and with the SRO. They would continually update themselves in that process, yes.
And then I think the other thing we heard yesterday, I think most of us heard, that there are 200 more freshmen than normal. We're at just like 700 freshmen this year, so that in it, right? Is that correct? Or you're looking at me funny, so maybe I got that wrong.
Yeah, yeah, not quite, not quite. I think today, as we looked at the numbers, we were closer to like 75 more freshmen, but the numbers are up at the high school. We're verifying numbers because it looks like it's up quite a bit, and so we want to make sure we bring you accurate numbers. I also want to ask Lee to kind of talk about, I think we were going to be down in SRO this year, just due to the GIPD and their needs, et cetera. And also, so we'll be using some of the funding that we would have normally utilized towards this position. So maybe just to explain the need in that context, but more of the focus of this actual position.
Yes, so obviously, everybody's feeling the crunch too, and so is GIPD. They've had multiple retirements and some leaving, but I know that they are also had a very fair recruitment that's happened. So, but that may not happen within a 6-month period. So we had a meeting with them. Even today, we talked about that. They have a plan for the SRO that's up there. Obviously, our hire came from GIPD, and he will assist in as much as he can. We'd like to get him more in the elementary schools, but we know that assistance needs to be up there as well. So we have a plan in place for that. This position that we're looking at is one of those that's an assistant for that area, but it also would help with, we have, principals that run those doors to make sure that we have our exterior doors that are locked. That's just one of those areas that we could take away from the SROs that they handle now, but our campus monitors are doing that, and we just need that kind of a eye in the sky that says we're handling these items, and especially up at Grand Island Senior High. I mean, that's where it's going to be focused at for them to do that. Now, with that being said, the law enforcement officer would also have that background in some safety items, and also could do some presentations to the staff and assist them in any type of security or other items that they could bring to our attention as a safety department and say, hey, we need to increase it here, we need to maybe look at these type of doors there, and we can work through that to have that system in place with that. So it's always an improvement. I'm always looking to upgrade.
And thank you for correcting the numbers. I don't know where I heard 200, so. Maybe it was all together, not just in freshman class or something.
And the other part of that is it's a full-time, not full-time, but we'd like to have them 260. And we have those summer programs, and this summer we had door monitors. This would really help, because the door monitors we had to use were the crossing guards that I have, and we had to go through an extensive training with them so they understood what they had to do. Now I would have somebody, or the school would have somebody to say, no, we can take this is how we're going to operate that during the summertime. So it's not just a GI-GISH, segment. We can spread that out and use that for those areas as well.
Great explanation, thank you. You have anything else, Bonnie? Okay, well, your light's on. Yeah. No. Okay, are we moving on then? Okay.
Am I dismissed?
You're all set.
Oh,
Thank you
yeah.
so much.
Thank
So-
you. 9.7, request to authorize GIPS to enter into contract with Red Thread Creative LLC to create a comprehensive long-term recruitment solutions campaign.
So for the Red Thread Creative LLC, it's an advertising contract. It is a budgeted item, so we are using already budgeted funds. But what we're doing is we're redirecting our recruitment funds to create a branded campaign to elevate GIPS as employer of choice. It will be a multi-year campaign, so there's a large investment up front of our dollars, but we'll get a lot of the payback on the back end, where we'll be able to use the branding, the tagline, the collateral, everything they're creating for us, at least in the next 3 to 5 years. We've been very successful with recruiting teachers in an unprecedented environment, and I'll talk about that later in the staffing report. But we can't assume that what we've done every year is going to get us these results every year. We have to look at different options and change things up as the world around us changes. So the contract is for a maximum of $89,991. That includes creating from scratch a whole branding campaign. The recruitment solution would be that we'll have pieces of collateral, of advertising. They're going to have a whole digital approach that we don't have now that we need, including what's called a microsite, where you can scan a QR code takes you to a little form, you put in 5 pieces of information, and then we basically will chase that lead. That's something that we have seen very successful, is streamlining and automating our processes. So now we're taking it to the next level to really digitize it. I say the maximum amount is $89,991 because I have been working with Jennifer and Mitch and the communications team to see what we can do in-house and what they will be able to have Red Thread perform for us. But the base of that is really creating the campaign that we can launch. So, and this would be, effective relatively immediately. We've had some great meetings with them. We're really excited about the concepts that they've come up with. Really great things. I'm really excited to bring it back, which at the next meeting we'll be talking much more tangible if we're moving forward with us.
Dr. Bros, any questions?
Thank you. I looked through this agreement, and the only thing that stuck out to me is number 11 that says independent contractors. If we're going to be contracting with them for almost $90,000, then they don't, help me understand what the independent contractor would do on that.
That's just saying that even though Red Thread maintains a lot of their talent in-house, there might be things they will still have to, farm out basically for whatever specialties. That's really what it is, but it would still be included in the cost of the total contract. So they wouldn't be billing us over and above if they need to get additional expertise. We spend a lot of time going through our needs and if they can match those needs, and they've, like I said, they've come up with very comprehensive, exciting ideas, and that's what we're paying for with that price tag of $89,000. But if there's something that they have to go for a specialist who works with some particular area of digital marketing or media, they will get them, and it's included in the cost of our contract. Any
Okay,
questions?
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just like, just stay there.
Yep.
9.8, substitute daily rate increase.
Okay. Sorry, I was messing with my notes. Got them out of order. All right, so substitute daily rate increase. For the 22-23 school year, we are recommending the daily rate be increased by $5 across the board. So we have multiple categories of substitute teachers. We have what's called the regular local certificate. We have a long-term certificate. We have, local. We have the regular full certificate, which is issued and authorized by the Nebraska Department of Education. We have the long-term full certificate, and then we have a specialty rate for our retired GIPS teachers who return. So it starts at the current dollar amounts of $149, $159, $186 for a NDE certificated long-term. The retired GIPS rate is $157, and the retired long-term GIPS is $194. So across the board, we're requesting a $5 for increase for each of those daily rates. We also have an incentive that if a substitute works 85% of the school days in a month for their assignments, they get an additional monthly incentive of $155. So we would also include that with a $5 increase to be $160 for the 85% incentive.
Thank you. Doesn't look like there's any questions.
Well,
Oh, sorry. Oh, there she is.
I'll just mention
Ms.
because
Hinkle.
we talked about this in personnel as well, and I think you also shared with us at that time a comparison to other surrounding school districts, and we are higher than any of the immediate.
We are higher than most, but we are absolutely in alignment with all of them.
And they do it a little differently.
Absolutely, yeah. That tends to be the smaller districts. We are above those, but we are in alignment as far as within a few dollars, give or take. but we tend to be higher than most. And then we also have the incentive, which is a nice bonus.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think we're good. We'll move on.
I think that's all of me.
Your staffing update is now.
Are we gonna do that now? I
Yep.
didn't know when we wanted
Yeah,
to do
we
it.
moved-
All right,
we
I couldn't
moved.
sneak off that easy.
Yeah.
All right.
9.9 GIPS 2022-2023 staffing update.
All right, I'm going to get Brian Court, so he's here to answer any additional questions. There you are. All right. And, hang on. There it is, okay. Say if it went out right when I was waiting. Okay, ooh, there we go. Corey warned me not to panic. So, all right. So for our 22-23 staffing update, we're gonna compare and walk through some of our June numbers, because we just did this a couple months ago. But it's important to make sure that we are keeping the board, the public, and the community informed. So I'm going to start with kind of talking about a little bit of where we were in June, and of course review some of the national numbers, because they're getting worse, they're not getting better. So about 30% of new teachers leave the occupation within their first 5 years. Teacher turnover is highest in the South, technically lowest in the Northeast. 51% of teachers report having manageable workloads. So almost half say they can't keep up with the workload. And 53% have cited working conditions as a primary reason and concern for turnover. And then, as we know, our education workforce is aging. We're coming up on a next mass exodus for retirement. We've seen a couple, and we've seen them accelerated because of the pandemic, but we're not even there yet. We have a lot more to get through. So, when I stood here in June, we talked about our priorities. They're the same, they haven't changed, and we are highly dedicated to them. So we want to ensure high-quality full-time staff in our classrooms, reduce the amount of additional class coverage for our certified staff. So when we talk about that, that's, taking internal substitutes, we call them, and kind of filling in the gaps ad hoc when we had to. And then obviously free up substitute teachers for more flexible support across the district. So at the end of 21-22 school year, we had 108 certified resignations, 17 retirements. That was actually very much in line in previous years. We always hovered between anywhere of 112 to maybe 125. So we were really still in alignment of where we had been. There wasn't any huge spikes up or down. We had 3 leave of absences, so they do require coverage. And then we added 10 elementary positions that had to also be staffed. So the total of all those open positions was 138. So as of June 9th, we had 20.50 open certified positions based on projected enrollments, because we were still working with the numbers. We were working on a general May 15th cutoff for understanding enrollment numbers, but obviously kids will still be enrolling. So, all right. So instead of paint by numbers, we have recruitment by the numbers. We started with 138 openings. We hired 92.50. So as you see, as I'm following down the column, I could not emphasize these numbers enough because it's really great news for a change in education. It's wonderful to hear something in recruiting that's positive. So that left us with 45.50. So we hired all 10 of our social, emotional, creative arts specialists, which is phenomenal. I could not give my team enough credit for how hard they worked to bring those on board. It was a group effort, did amazing work. Special education had 5 positions that have been open consistently for the past 3 years. So what we did, working with special education department, we repurposed and moved those around. It did not impact coverage, it did not impact services, but we were able to use that budgeted amount in FTEs to repurpose, to realign, work with scheduling, and make those budget dollars that have been sitting there for no reason go further. So we're subtracting those 5 positions because we subtracted them from budget with no negative impact to student service. We reassigned and rescheduled, mostly at the high school was the rescheduling piece, 16 employees. We had 16 employees who stepped up and said that, yes, while it's not ideal, I know this is what our students need. Taking us down to 14.5. Our long-term substitutes, last year we had much higher numbers. I don't have those immediately in front of me, closer to about 20 to 30. This year we're starting with 6, taking us down to 8.5. And then, of course, we have the 3.0 in leave of absence that we're still working to cover. They just came in. So the total number of current certified openings is 5.50, and I cannot celebrate that enough. So starting with 138, we are down to 5.50. We are still actively recruiting. We're not giving up on those. We're actively recruiting. Brian's on every campus, every chance he gets, and we're confident that we'll get that number down even further. So the staffing strategies that we have implemented is staffing realignment and schedule adjustment, automating and modernizing our recruitment tools. The board was generous enough to authorize us to enter into a contract for a very robust applicant tracking system. And as we're now getting those first numbers to come in, we're also able to really follow up on things like abandonment rate. An abandonment rate is someone who starts an application, but they don't really go through the whole thing and hit submit, but it's kind of still hanging out there. With our new system, Brian specifically will go in there and check that abandonment rate, and he has been calling those people to say, what is the problem? What can we help you with? Do you have questions? Can I talk to you about GIPS? Why have you not finished the application? And it's been a very successful tactic, I'm happy to say. And elevating awareness for Grand Island Public Schools. We've been out there, boots on the ground, doing everything we can, and part of the strategy moving forward will be that contract with Red Thread and really getting that branding elevated even further to be a district and employer of choice for Nebraska, not just Grand Island. So as I've talked about in that chart, we identified existing certified positions and reassigned them to classroom to help fill vacancy. 16 employees said, let's do this, we have to. This also allows us to provide students with current staff that will deliver high quality instruction and maintain a continuity of learning. Substitute teachers are so valuable, but when you have to put together multiple substitutes to cover something, you have that disconnect of learning. So we've focused really hard on filling the positions to maintain that continuity of learning. All courses that were originally planned to be offered are being offered. There aren't courses that are being discontinued or moved because of staffing. So if it was planned to be offered and we needed it to be staffed, it is staffed. The realignment also supports existing teachers by minimizing disruptions. So a lot of what we talked about, that internal substitute coverage, and also, not burning out our substitute pool. So our current openings of 5.5 certified openings district-wide are only at the middle school and high school. I am not sure if there are many districts throughout the country our size who can say that their elementary schools are fully staffed. I would be shocked. We have 4 openings in middle school and 1.5 in high school. We are always looking for science teachers and math teachers. So if you know people, we have incentives. We have expanded our social media presence, not just Facebook, but we're Twitter, we're Facebook, obviously, we're LinkedIn. We're looking to the reputable social media outlets to get our message out of how awesome it is to work in Grand Island, to be an educator in Grand Island Public Schools. We're working more consistently and closely with colleges. I think pretty soon they're going to start redirecting his mail to a couple of those campuses because he's there all the time. Not just on the recruitment days, but building those relationships, raising that profile. We have set in place student teacher stipends. We have 4 student teachers starting, well, they've already started, but when classes start Monday. For this fall semester, $1,500 per semester offered to the 4 we have. We've already gotten a lot of interest for the spring, so we have budgeted and targeted a goal of 8 additional for spring 2023. We still have signing bonuses for STEM. And we're working with, as I discussed, Red Thread for a statewide and regional campaign reach, multi-year and long-term recruitment solutions. I am very happy to report back on some of the programs that we discussed in June that we were finalizing and putting together. So we're providing stipends and some financial support for employees who are enrolled in the Para to Teacher program. We have 3 GIPS paraeducators that are enrolled in Wayne State College Central Nebraska Teach program, and we're supporting them with a $1,000 stipend. They also provide opportunity for virtual on-site class attendance, and we've been working with them to provide flexible schedules so they can attend their classes. Okay, before I get there. The other thing I wanted to update everyone is that Nebraska Department of Education has issued conditional teaching permits for 3 of our early education paras. They are on full teacher contracts. They are being paid as teachers because they have their conditional authorized certification. And when they complete the program, they'll have the opportunity to come on board with their regular certifications. So we're very excited about that. Nebraska NDE issued those because there was a crisis, even more targeted at early educators, just a complete lack of them throughout the state. So with their support, we have 3 additional employees who are already designated as teachers and working in that program. Okay, so June 9th, we talked about the realignment of our teachers to make sure that we're focusing on the guidelines we have in place for class size. So June, we had 52% of our classes within class size guidelines. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, that is our K-5 class size guidelines. We had 45% just below that in the yellow range, and we had 2% just above. Now, I realize that doesn't add up to 100%. It's because we had a small margin of error because it was so low on the 2%. So now, in August, we are at 49% for class size guidelines. And we are at 50% for lower than class size guidelines. And we're actually a little less than 1%. But Dr. Dahl is the statistician, not me, so we're going with 1%. And that does get us to that 100, but we actually improved with that class realignment. The teacher realignment, certified realignment, pardon me. So, and then I would like to remind everyone that we are having a job fair. We have tackled a lot of our certified challenges. Now we are shifting our focus for classified. So effective this Tuesday, we're having a walk-in job fair. We have a streamlined application process. We will have on-site interviews, and we will make offers on-site for eligible people. We will continue this job fair every month until we have the majority of our positions really knocked down and filled. We have a special need for nutrition services right now. We are shifting and moving people around who are volunteering to help feed our students. So we have a very high need for nutrition services, and we will do everything we can to support them. So Tuesday, August 16th, from 7:30 to 5, but if we have people here at 5, we will stay as long as it takes. So just another flyer. This has been posted on our Facebook GIPS employment page. So please come out, come say hi, support us. If you know people, tell them we're here, we're hiring. So are there any questions I can answer? Any questions Brian can answer for you?
So Kristen, the 5.5 openings that we still have, so what are your thoughts on getting those covered?
They are covered.
They are covered. Is that where you're using substitutes?
Not just the substitutes. We have internal shifts in scheduling and moving people around. So every elementary school, middle school, and our high school is covered for classes for what is originally planned to be offered is being offered. We're still recruiting. We're still looking to fill those. To try to take some of those positions that were moved from non-classroom into classroom and try to move them back as we're able to fill those last few gaps.
Excellent.
So there's coverage 100%.
Okay, well, congratulations on that. And then the long-term special ed openings that have been open for years.
Yes.
Special is just hard. Special ed and STEM, they're both just very difficult to hire. And we don't see that changing anytime soon. So with just a realignment of how you were doing the special ed classes and the teachers, you were able to get everything covered that wasn't opening before.
Yes, absolutely. And honestly, they were covered in previous years.
Sure. Yes.
And they've just been languishing out there as, budgeted FTEs as, for our budget. So we kind of repurposed those dollars to make them go further for other things within the staffing realm for special ed.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Mr. Helinski.
I applaud you for what you did, because that's a big number to drop. But my question is that we're going to be giving out stipends, and we're going to be doing these types of things for student teachers and the paraeducators, things like that. What are we doing after they are done with their training to keep them here? That was big even when I was in college. I lost a lot of friends because they went to Texas, because when you went to Texas, at least at that time, if you were a student teacher, I believe it was $1,500 a month down there. Now, I'm not saying we need to do that by any means, or we can't afford to do that. But what are we going to do? We're spending money now to keep these people, to get them in here. What are we going to do after they are done? So, thanks for the $1,500. See ya. I'm going to Omaha, or I'm going to Kansas, or I'm going to Iowa. What are we doing to keep those people here after we paid them?
We are locking them down on contract.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Brian, if you have anything to add, but yes, within the first few weeks, as long as they have demonstrated to meet our standards of teaching, we will lock them down on contract. We never did that before. We waited till they were done. We had the full evaluation process. We are accelerating that process of evaluation to say, yes, we see the potential. We see how fantastic they are with our students. And we're locking them in on contract in the first month. They'll have that option.
Okay.
I was at the NASB Ledge Committee meeting last Friday, and all the different districts, all varying sizes from across the state, were all talking about giving their student teachers stipends. And some of the smaller communities that had great difficulty recruiting people were giving them more than $1,500. And and then doing the same thing, locking them down. So I was actually emailing Kristen, like while we're having this conversation, I'm emailing her like every idea that people were talking about. So it's going to be the new normal. It is just going to be what we have to do now.
Yeah, and Omaha's given 8,000, just FYI. So, and some school districts are providing some kind of housing. So you're seeing that in rural ones, because that's another challenge that we face here as well, but that's the other piece. The things we do, obviously, we have a retention bonus of 3,000 if anyone stays 3 years, starts their 4th year. That's a huge, pull. If we can get them to stay that long, they're going to be pretty ingrained in GIPS, and the chance of leaving lessons if you can get them to that 4th year. Obviously, mentoring program, we're doing some things different with our secondary, especially mentoring. And the other piece with that is not just getting connected to GIPS. I think we do a good job of that within our community. And so our new hires, we're going to do more things socially within GI, within our community, and do a downtown tour, and we have a lot of different ideas. So we went kind of with a team mentoring approach at the secondary levels. So you'll probably see things posted. And that's something we're really hoping in our community is going to help support that with, different things, maybe some sponsorships on some things, and hosting us, giving us tours, et cetera, in businesses. So we want to do some things differently for not just GIPS, but for our community, because we got to get them ingrained in our community as well.
All right, thank you.
Mrs. Wolf, Miss Wolf?
Like, I'm not my mother, no. I just had a question. I had the opportunity back in my teaching days to do the 10% outside of my certified area. I got to teach careers, learned a lot with the students together. So I was just curious, I know it's a tool in our tool belt. I was just curious how much we're utilizing that, or I don't know exactly. I don't know if I want a number or what. I'm just curious how much we're using that and how receptive teachers were to that, because I can tell you I wasn't at first until I started teaching it and was like, okay, this is okay. I can do this kind of thing. So I was just curious.
Brian?
Yeah, so you're talking people outside their endorsed area.
Content area.
So we're having more. So we have some teachers that are doing some things, and some of the rules are changing with NDE. And so that's helping us a little bit, because you just have to provide them training. So say, for example, a K-6 person can teach up to 8th grade, but usually have to teach at least half their day in that K-6. They don't have to do that anymore. As long as you're providing that middle school training, which all of our teachers have, they do all the curriculum work, they meet that, and that's just changed with NDE. So things like that are just ever changing with the Department of Ed, which is obviously very helpful. So K-6 people or 7-12 people to teach 6th grade, which you'd think would be an automatic, it's not. So it does allow them, same thing, a 7 through 12 endorsement can teach 6th grade as long as we are having them do all of our curriculum, any of our professional development at that level. So that's a bonus there that we can utilize a little bit. And that's one thing, to be honest, our principals did a great job when we looked at how to staff some of these positions to make sure everything's covered, having teachers, and teachers willing to do that. We just had a 6th grade language arts teacher switch up to 8th grade science. She's endorsed in that middle school, and that happened 3 weeks ago in one of our buildings. And that came through just a discussion with the principal and said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And something we really needed, science at the middle school. So team approach, I'm gonna be honest, it's a ton of people doing all this.
Mr. Hawley?
I have 2 questions. Number one, can you tell me where we're at with the number of classified positions that are open, and kind of where that started from early on to where we're at now?
So right now, we're between 50 and 60 open across the entire district. I say that's kind of a large margin, but we've been hiring this week nonstop, so including today. And we have more interviews tomorrow. We were able to get a couple of our really, really crucial nutrition services positions offers outstanding this week. So we're in that 50 to 60 range. The main reason it's jumped is because we have letters of intent that go out right after July 4th to say that for our 9-month employees, Are you returning for the year or are you not? They're not any kind of mandate or binding, so they can change their mind and we can change our mind. So we kind of start to take stock right about that middle part of July. And then we still start to reach out to people directly and call them and say, hey, we didn't receive your letter to return. Do you plan to return? Some are like, oh yeah, I was on vacation, I forgot it. Some are like, no, I'm coming back. Well, that's where we have to shift and adjust. So probably in mid-July, we were closer to about 35 to 40 because we're starting to see the impact of those letters. So we're doubling down. We're chasing people who never returned their letters or never responded back in any way. But that's part of the hiring fair that we're really going to start driving more of what we need to towards classified positions.
Okay. And secondly, can you tell me, when your follow-up conversations that you had with folks that had open-ended applications, what some of those responses looked like? Was there a trend?
So 2 or 3 of them that I called, we hired them. We got them to
Got 'em in.
apply then and complete their application, or get them in to complete. Most of them, a couple of the people that I talked to, and when, a couple of them cases, they were reaching out because we're part of the consortium and we switched over, so we're our own and now on Frontline. But they decided against GI and were looked at another district, or another district had reached out, or they're in the process of interviewing. In most cases, that's the way it was. The couple of them we hired, they decided they were going to interview closer to home. One's driving from Kearney, so really wants something closer. Obviously, spring, summer with gas getting the way it was, that was, I think, a deciding factor. And then when I called him and said, we have this position, and then he was like, sure, I'd like to interview and learn more about it. And we fortunately got him in a couple days later and offered him and hired him pretty quickly. So most of those happened pretty quick. Most of them, the ones that had stopped because of another position that either intrigued them more or they got an offer, is that a lot of times, and applications take a little bit of time, and we're trying to, I'll be honest, we're going to concise that a lot different next year. Part of the consortium we couldn't, so it was very long. It'll probably be half of what it was, which will be much better for candidates.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mrs. Hinkle.
First of all, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you to all the teachers who were flexible. We really appreciate that. I wanted to, when you first sharing the numbers, did you mean that there were 3 leave of absence that you just found out about today?
No, not today.
Oh.
But planning for the year, scheduling them over the course of, usually towards the end of spring is where,
Okay.
because they're going into the next year as a leave of absence.
Okay, got it. And then I know you don't have the information tonight, so maybe this is something you could bring back to us, but I think it's been about 4 years since we started the Path Back program. And so could you share with us the results, and is that something we need to consider doing more than 2 students at a time?
Brian, how's that?
Well,
Yeah.
Our first 2 were this year, or would have been. The one, and I was the person's mentor, he left education, left college after his freshman year.
Oh, shoot.
And I believe both have not finished. The other student's still there. The good news for this upcoming year, we have 2 that were both math teachers, if you recall. And the one will be graduating from UNK in May. And his spouse is also a GI kid and is either science or English. So it would be a home run if we can pull them back, obviously, secondary. But I talked to them last year at the UNK job fair. And so I've kind of kept in touch. And we have a mentor teacher for them during their time. And I've done better with making sure they're reaching out, just staying in connection with them when they're home over breaks, having them come in, observe, shadow, whenever we have any type of PD that works in their schedule, that they can join us for anything. So we're doing better on that end, because again, it's about that relationship and connection they have, and just keeping in touch. And the kids leave so excited, and they go off to college, and they get excited about college and where they're at. So it's making sure they don't forget about GI.
We don't like to use the word stalking, but we stay in constant communication. Let's put it that way.
And having the right mentors is, I think, pretty important for that, obviously.
But did you answer the question about do we need more?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm in as many as we can get, I'll be honest. I think it's a great opportunity. I have shared that with the state group. I'm on a teacher shortage group, and that's something that's, could be it's It doesn't cost us anything because there's nothing beyond the support we provide them and time. The mentor teachers don't get paid anything. They're just willing to do that. So that's just something you'll see other districts starting to do the same thing to try to bring kids back and grow their own type of deal. That's we're talking about with some of these other pieces that we're doing, the apprentice preschool, early childhood, the parent teacher, the Central Nebraska Teach program with Wayne State. You're going to see more and more of those things popping up with other districts. Obviously, our Education Academy this is our large group coming through. There's 30-some Dr. Schumacher has down there, and she's doing a great job with that.
So maybe we need 30.
Yeah, yeah,
If we can get them, we'll take them.
yeah,
Love to see us double it at least, 4 or 5.
yeah,
Would be nice.
yeah.
Thank you.
I do have one additional update for certified staffing numbers as whole. So for 2020, we had 780. For 2021, we had 790. And for 2022, we had 800. So we seem to keep going up by just about 10. Just a tiny margin of error there, possibility, because of just the amount of moving around that people tend to do. But we've been steadily increasing our numbers. Okay, any other questions? Okay, wonderful.
Nope,
Thank
I
you.
don't think so. Thank you so much. 9.10, Mr. Petch.
I'm going to use my 30 minutes. Going to talk, no. So, guess what? We actually started construction on one of our ESSER 3 projects this week up at the high school. Our additions there on the north end for the cafeteria and the band room. So that's good. We just had to wait. You know, those were approved back in April. So that timing was expected. So that's good. We intend to have that project completed and ready for the next fall. You know, I mentioned last time the connect room project won't start till this next spring. Have started working because we did not move the Gates project forward. So that gives us about $2 million to work with, and we're going to focus on security vestibule projects that were part of those ESSER 3s. And so, in particular, I've got Walnut and Howard, which are going to be a bit larger in scale, and then try to pull in the other 4 of those projects as well to do maybe not a huge build out, but to include those so that we can bring those close to our standard for a security vestibule. So that's what we'll be doing this fall, and then probably go out for proposal here late fall or early winter kind of thing. So we're set up to get those projects kicked off once the kids are out this next summer. Medical pathway, we're still kind of going through a lot of review process and the financing piece, so that's ongoing. Did want to mention too that if anyone's going to be going around Shoemaker, I've got word that the city has a street project that they're resurfacing that's going to impact the access to that building this coming weeks. So just kind of word out there that drive careful, be patient, plan ahead so that we can get our kids in and out of that location. It won't take a long time, but definitely there'll be a week of construction that's going to be a headache for us getting our kids to and from. So with that, I'll conclude my report or answer any questions you might have.
Do you know, is it going to impact kids that are walking to Shoemaker, or is it just driving to Shoemaker?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I mean, you know, the expectation there is that where the kids do cross, it's Old Potash, that, you know, we have a crossing guard there. So, you know, we'll
And they'll still be able to cross there?
Yeah. It's just going to be a little more hectic. A lot of, you know, equipment and things going on there. So we'll work on that and keep focus on our safety.
Okay. I think you're off the hook. Thank you.
Thanks.
9.11 Superintendent Report.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We have heard quite a bit of great information already tonight. Just want to recap just a little. We did have our lead GIPS retreat back in July. This was an opportunity for us to share the theme for the year. We are boldly GIPS. We had the opportunity to really dig into the book, The Advantage, and we also had a consultant here from the Table Group that was working with us on how we move forward with organizational health, and it was extremely insightful, encouraging, and just really was the right momentum for our leadership in terms of leading strong culture back in the buildings. It went over very well. But we were probably equally excited about, we had the opportunity to help the city with their upcoming comprehensive plan, and so we got a chance to move around Grand Island, take photos, give them feedback, and so it's going to be a great project for the city. We also had lunch with our community leaders at several businesses and organizations where we heard from their leadership about how they build culture in their organizations, and just wonderful feedback, two-way exchange, them learn about us. Also, we had the opportunity to learn about them, and it's just, we definitely want to keep that going. Yesterday, we had our all-staff welcome back. You were there, you experienced it, you know it was electrifying, inspiring, encouraging, all those great things. I won't recap it. I do want to point out that we have a new video series that kicked off yesterday, Why I Teach Today. And as you can see, the video we had yesterday brought tears to many people's eyes, looking at the teacher's response to the students' reaction. And so we have more of that coming. That was Kim Madison from Walnut Middle School. So congratulations, Kim, for all the impact that you're making out there. We also handed out our gratitude journals. Thank you, Mrs. Albers, the Board of Education, for providing those, giving us an opportunity to be grateful for everything that we have going on here in Grand Island Public Schools. And ultimately, we wanted to help our staff feel celebrated, heard, and empowered. And I think we did that. So we're looking forward to a great year. It's that time. Back to school is here. Students are returning next week. So I want to make sure I point out that our kindergarten, 6th grade, and 9th graders, they start on the 15th. And we will have all of our kiddos back, our students, our scholars, on August the 16th. So parents, please be mindful. Look out for communications from your campuses, but also on our website. So we are also looking at, I did want to maybe talk about enrollment just a little bit. You asked about that earlier. We have decided we are going to wait until after August 31st to bring forward a formal report. But from what we are seeing right now, we're definitely going to still be over the 10,000 mark. Our numbers are ticking up in 8th grade. Yeah, many 8th grade students at all of the middle schools, so we're trying to figure that out. So we may have to, with new students coming to the district, we have to figure out they may not be able to attend, you know, where they live. We're looking for space and availability, but something we're working through. But we're just glad to have them here in Grand Island Public Schools. As I mentioned, last year, our freshman class started with 675. As of today, we're starting with 735. We do have some preliminary numbers for the high school at large. We could be up a couple of hundred students. I don't know. We're going to make sure we verify, make sure we have, as we say, butts in the seats when they arrive. Then we'll have a more accurate picture. So we are definitely encouraged by those numbers. And then I know, you know, we thought maybe we wouldn't have to bring this report here tonight. But just because we want to make sure we follow our ESSER plans and that we are compliant, I can't resist. We do have Mr. Gearhart that's going to come out and give you a quick update on our safe return to school plan, represent the pandemic team. They are still in effect.
That is not at all what I expected tonight. Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, apparently, if you haven't heard, we're still in a pandemic. So, unfortunately, that means I get to come out here and talk to you for a little bit. This is going to be really quick. I like this picture. I wanted to show that. I also wanted to pull this up. I was looking back through all of the things we've done over the last 2.5 years now, and it's kind of crazy to think, but this statement stuck out when I was reviewing things. I'm acknowledging that what's working today may not work tomorrow. And that was kind of our mantra at the beginning, because it was a day-to-day
We didn't know what was going to happen. We were trying to get all the information, as was everybody else on the planet. And then, of course, there was the list of teams. So that's actually from a presentation that I gave here a couple of years ago. This is familiar, CDHD's dial. If you remember, last year, we were pretty keyed into that 50 cases per 100,000 over 7 days. I mean, that was the number, and here we sit at 141, and this is kind of just where we're at. We are watching it. It has gone up. The positivity rate, of course, that means every time somebody gets a test, if 100 people get a test, 52 of them test positive. They like to see that again in that 5 to 10% range. So really high means there's a lot of tests that aren't getting done. And so the rates are higher than we're showing here at the 141 in the case count. This is a different way to look at it. That just kind of shows going out of last school year at the end of May, and then kind of the rise in the community case rates for Hall County or CDHD over the summer and where we're at today. You'll see the 50 line there, the gray line was still that substantial transmission. Point is defined by the federal public health officials. CDC, thanks, hadn't said that one in a while. Lots of acronyms. So this, we kind of had to modify how we handle reporting internally with the cases that happen for GIPS, because we no longer necessarily get as many positive tests, and the contact tracing doesn't happen like it used to, because things are different than they were, 6 months to a year ago. So we actually modified our internal reports just to talk more about or to show us the absences that are being assigned to COVID or the pandemic. So we're going to see that. This is a comparison of GIPS back at the very beginning of the year with COVID-related absences versus Hall County, CDHD, Hall, Hamilton, and Merrick, and show you just the explosion that happened right after coming back from Christmas, and then, of course, kind of how it's leveled off. And we're going to see this change. I mean, we don't have a lot of reporting happening here over the summer, and we obviously don't have many students, almost no students for the month of July. So the Safe Return to School plan. We set this up a couple years ago. We've been modifying it ever since. So this is just an introduction real quick to the modifications that have been happening. If you want the full thing, it's there. Go to the website, you can get it. But here's what it says. The updates, what are the main points? Masks are optional. We're not gonna start out with masks. We still have a lot of those non-pharmaceutical interventions in place, so needlepoint bipolar ionization, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that at least once during one of these. And then hand washing, of course, following our guidance from our local and state public health officials regarding vaccinations. There's a big push right now for booster vaccines. There's a big push for children getting booster vaccines. And there's evidence that we're seeing more hospitalizations in school-aged children than before because of the Omicron BA.5 variant, I think, which is predominant now in our community. And then the main point, this hasn't changed, but I wanted to bring it up because this is the big one. Understanding that staffing and operational challenges may still result in temporary masking or closure. If this flares up to the point where we can't staff schools to have school, we may make some adjustments prior to closing school. And that's what that says. So how do we handle classroom exposures? We're going to contact trace as needed with CDHD. Again, there's a lot less emphasis on that now. When necessary, our buildings are going to communicate with families regarding positive cases. For the most part, it's prolific enough that it's not going to be every time there's a case. It's going to be when there's a need for it. But district-wide absence counts and those things will still be communicated on the COVID dashboard. So there's still a dashboard still showing what's going on in GIPS. And of course, you can always look at the Hall County dashboard as well. So closures, elementary, if we see 3 or more students or staff in a single classroom, it may result in closure of that classroom. The duration is to be determined in consultation with CDHD. Middle and high school, it's a lot more challenging. We are not using cohorting as a non-pharmaceutical intervention. So we went back to our traditional scheduling model so that students would be able to, it's a little more flexible. It helps make some of the staffing things happen, especially when you're dealing with the short staffing. So when we made that decision, it's difficult to identify cohorts, but we're still going to try, and we're still going to work with CDHD when necessary to identify groups of students that may be at higher risk and address that accordingly. So school closures, last year we notified parents if illness rates in a school, so absences for children as a percentage of all children present, went above 5% for two or more consecutive days, then we may notify and say, hey, you may want to mask up, you may want to be aware that this is going on. This year, we will continue to watch those trends. If we have someone floating right around that 4, 3, 4, 5, we're still going to try and stick to that 2-day, but there are going to be extenuating circumstances. So, the 8% was the threshold before as well. We've decided to maintain the 8%. Seemed to work well for us last year. If we see absences go above that, it may result in closure for the building. Of course, we're going to do everything we can to prevent that. So any mitigating circumstances, any masking and things may be a possibility for a short period of time in order to prevent that from happening. And then that's what the third bullet says. Prior to the building closure, we're going to try not to close it, right? So isolation guidelines, everyone, regardless of vaccination status, if you have COVID, stay home for 5 days. If you don't have symptoms or your symptoms are resolving, you can return and wear a mask for another 5 days, and we move on. If you have a fever though, you got to continue to stay home until your fever resolves. So what's the bottom line? If you don't feel good or you have symptoms, just stay home. Get better and then come back. We'll be ready. We'll be here. So that's what I got tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Gearhart. Any questions? Oh, Ms. Wolf has a question.
I just want to tell you that I really appreciate that there were not any scary interactive maps, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hawley.
Dead mind.
Just a clarification on symptoms. So we saw a lot of this last year, right? And me as a parent, same thing. I mean, kids who have high allergies in our home, showing allergy symptoms that can be COVID symptoms. Are we still talking 5 days on something like that, or?
No. I mean, the nurse is gonna help evaluate that. If there's evidence or history of that, I mean, that's not gonna be an issue. They have modified all of the, it used to be, if you had one of these things, then that was automatic exclusion. Then it was if you have two. Now there really is that nursing judgment is going to come into play a lot more this year. I can't tell you all the details and specifics because the list is about this long of all the different symptoms. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I have the same thing going on in my family, but no, I don't see that being the same as it was before.
And then to follow up with that, so not necessarily requiring doctor's notes to go back to school either?
So there are some specific circumstances that may require that, but those are detailed on a sheet that's on that website, and the nursing staff would be able to further articulate it. So if you have a question about it or something, but it's really related to exposures, some contact tracing, things like that may require that note.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 10, action items. 10.1, senior construction house, realtor request for qualifications.
Howdy, folks. Last month, the RFQ for realtors to be the agent for the sale of the construction tech home was presented. The Grand Island Realtors Association was contacted and provided a copy of the RFQ. The RFQ was also advertised in the Grand Island Independent. Summary of qualification submissions from realtors were due by Wednesday, August 11th at 5 p.m. At that time, Mr. Phillips and I opened those sealed documents, and we used a rubric to independently score each of the proposals. Then, after scoring them independently, we discussed our scores and the proposals. We both agreed on independently on the rank order of the proposals. We recommend entering into an MOU with Mr. Jimmy Reed. The RFQ scoring and tabulation criteria are attached to this agenda item for your review, as well as the MOU that has been reviewed by the district's legal counsel. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you regarding this process or our recommendation?
Doesn't look like it.
Well, not a question, but.
Oh, Mr. Brown.
Not a question, it'd be a motion.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I would move to approve the Grand Island Public School District entering into an MOU understanding with Jimmy Reed for the purpose of having an agent to be listing realtor for Grand Island Public Schools Senior Construction Tech Program House for a term not to exceed 5 years.
Mr. Brown and Mr. Barsonis, is there any discussion? I did have a question. When I was reviewing these tabulations, there is a section on there about what the realtor can do for, I guess, our business pathway. Can you go into some explanation for that? Is it going to be like internships, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, the different realtors proposed different options ranging from in-classroom presentations regarding the various aspects of real estate, buying a home, financing a home, things like that. One of the realtors offered the opportunity for internship, another for job shadowing. So yeah, a variety of options, and that's why we wanted to make that one of the criteria. We wanted to really see an investment from the realtors in the educational programming and participation in that educational programming. And in that category, Mr. Reed really did rise to the top.
Do you foresee it'd be more than one student then? Like several students would have an opportunity? It wouldn't just be like,
yeah,
it'd be several?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll work that out as we work through the details of the MOU, but through Mr. Reed's proposal, he really showed that he wants to invest in our kiddos and he wants to develop relationships and help the pathways.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and vote. Motion passes.
Lisa.
What did I do wrong?
No.
Oh, what?
I just actually wanted to congratulate Mr. Reed on this, and also for his patience, sitting here for 3 hours waiting for that. Sorry about that. And also the idea of coming and the whole idea of this, it really started with him, and it's a great idea. It's really education based. It's really getting that education, or your, especially the realtors and how they operate and the buying and selling houses, which, you know, we all do as adults, but it's great to get the kids input or get them educated early on about, you know, how important that purchase is, and it's not easy. So thank you for your participation in this. It's awesome.
Mr. Reed, would you like to say something?
Just real quick, sorry. No, thank you all very much too. It's gonna be fun. You know, I still like working with kids that age. Sometimes I'll wear tennis shoes to just try to relate to them. So I'm excited for it. A lot of the whole, the internship stuff, you know, I think it's hard to have kids kind of shadow our jobs because it's so gray. It's so across the board. It's not 8 to 5. It's all the time. It's interesting stuff. But personally, what I found for me, and I think it ties into some of the programs that they offer over there, is going to a lot of these different multimedia conventions and starting out just doing my own editing and my own videography and just kind of really learning how to work those programs and then translating that to what makes sense for marketing in the real world. That's kind of a passion of mine. And so whether it's to tell them real estate's a great way to build, you know, assets and credit to build wealth, from just doing that like multi-student, as long as it's okay with the board, you know, showing them different things on the marketing side of stuff and how you can do that for any product or brand. I'm just a big believer in that. So that's kind of like my mini passion outside of everything else we're doing for, you know, the kids with possible scholarships and things like that. So I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Whoops. 10.2, request for changes to the GIPS Hall County truancy agreement.
Any questions?
Mr. Helinski?
I've been back and forth on this one since we went over it in the committee. And I understand where he's coming from, and I understand where we're coming from, but I think that we need to have something solid in place before we let them out, whether it's the 90 days or not. Could be 2 weeks, could be 3 weeks, could be the full 90 days. But I honestly think that we just have to have something in place before we let them out of that, and for that reason, I will be voting no on this.
Mr. Barsness?
Make a motion to accept the request from Hall County Attorney's Office to terminate truancy prevention program cooperative with Hall County.
Second.
Mr. Barsness and Mrs. Hinkle? What did you say? Any discussion?
Well, sorry.
Yeah,
Am I
go
live
ahead.
on? Okay. It's like, which button did but I just have a question in regards to looking at it from the perspective of what if we just finished out those hearings that were scheduled for August or the second week or whatever he stated?
It's just going to be extremely hard for them to provide staff. I mean, Marty will do his best,
Right.
but they're swamped.
Okay, no, I just wanted to check. That's all.
Well, and you could tell by his face. I mean, he's obviously very sad to have this be done at this point, but he's haggard. He's got a lot going on. Any other discussion? Oh, Mrs. Hinkle.
I would just, I will reluctantly vote for it just because they're up against a hard rock, or in between a rock, whatever, in a hard place. And if we are going to move to a new model of having the principals hold the hearings, the ones that are already scheduled will be probably good.
And just to be clear, they're not going to be holding hearings. They're going to be
Well-
part of the intervention plan process.
Okay.
So it won't be like the hearing here.
Okay.
But they will be involved.
But parents will still have to go to the school and talk to them and so forth, right?
Yes.
And there will still be that, whatever, the conversations that take place and so forth. So I feel like, I mean, it was a great program. I know it's been around for a long time. We've gotten a lot of big kudos to it, and hopefully things change in the near future and we'll maybe be able to reconsider it. But I feel like at this point, we need to honor their request. Are you gonna make a motion?
Just out of curiosity, just in the next, in this coming month, you'll be talking about it. You guys have some work. What committees will this be part of this conversation before next month? Are you thinking next month you could provide an update, or a couple months on where we are?
Sure.
And which committees is there any committees that you think will hear about it?
Whatever you want.
No, I think just to the Mr. Hellings's point, I think we're all caring of what's next, and I know there's a lot of moving parts to it, so we'll continue to be part of that conversation.
To answer the question, Mr. Barsness, yes, we can bring it through policy as well as L for L. So if administration, please make note. Thank you.
Okay, let's vote. Motion passes. Item 11, request to add FTE.
Can I answer any questions?
You have it?
Make a motion to approve the HR FTE request for the Grand Island Public Schools as presented.
Mr. Barsness and Ms. Wolf, any discussion? Please vote. I was like, that was fast. Motion passes. Couldn't even get my glasses off. Okay. 12, request to authorize GIPS to enter into a contract. I'm sorry, stuff's moving. to enter into a contract with Red Thread Creative LLC to create a comprehensive long-term recruitment solutions campaign.
Make a motion to approve and authorize Chief of Human Capital to enter into a contract with Red Thread Creative LLC to create a comprehensive long-term recruitment solutions campaign.
Mr. Barsness, was that you, Mr. Helinski? Okay, Mr. Helinski. Any discussion? Vote.
Nope.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
You can stay there. Okay. Number 13, substitute
lot of time today.
daily rate increase.
Are there any questions I can answer for the substitute rates?
I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to submit the increase for the substitute daily rate as presented.
Mr. Barsness and Mr. Helinski. I'm sorry, you guys, my computer keeps, okay, it keeps scrolling down. Okay, any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. NASB monthly, 14 reports, NASB monthly update. You should have gotten an email about that. Make sure you check out their video. And then 15, executive session for the purpose of GIEA litigation because it is in the best interest of the public to discuss this matter in closed session.
Make a recommendation for the board to convene to executive session for the purpose of discussing GIEA litigation.
Mr. Barsness, Ms. Wolf, please vote. Motion passes. Number 16, reconvene from executive session.
Second.
Ms. Wolf and Mr. Barsonas, any discussion? Please vote. Did it go up there? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Well, you're faster than I am. I'm slow. Okay, 16.1, discuss, consider, and take all necessary action to approve the agreement reached by and between Grand Island Public Schools and the Grand Island Education Association to resolve and dismiss the pending litigation in the Commission of Industrial Relations regarding substitute teachers.
I move to approve the agreement between Grand Island Public Schools and the Grand Island Education Association to resolve and dismiss the pending litigation in the Commission of Industrial Relations regarding substitute teachers and authorize the board president to sign any documents necessary to finalize this agreement.
Mr. Barsonas and Mr. Helinski. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes. 17, sorry, guys. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Notification of upcoming board meetings. Budget workshop on September 8th at 5:30, and then our regular board meeting will start at 6:30, September 8th. And we are adjourned, friends.